It's Fully Threaded Radio, episode 195.
Hello, and welcome to Channel One, a new way of consuming, reporting, and thinking about the news powered by artificial intelligence. Today, you'll witness AI-generated stories and headlines, captivating visuals, and data-driven insights. From global news to finance to entertainment, we'll show you how technology enables us to bring you a global perspective 24/7, right from the heart of our AI-native newsroom. All presented by our team of AI-generated reporters.
Maybe you hear the words artificial intelligence and you're immediately skeptical or concerned about technology gone crazy. But everything you'll see on Channel One relies on trusted sources and fact-checking and uses AI to give you news the way you want it, personalized, localized, and distilled.
Today we're going to show off some of the technology we're using to build Channel One. We'll show you how AI powers and empowers our newsroom to deliver journalism that's fast, trustworthy, and accurate. Let's start with our reporters. You can hear us and see our lips moving. But no one was recorded saying what we're all saying. I'm powered by sophisticated systems behind the scenes. And I can speak in any language. Για παράδειγμα, αυτή τη στιγμή μιλάω στα ελληνικά. O kung pinapanood mo ako mula sa Maynila, marunong akong magsalita ng Filipino. எனக்கும் தமிழ் பேசத் தெரியும் என்று நீங்கள் யூகித்திருக்க மாட்டீர்கள் என்று நான் நம்புகிறேன். In fact, you can see even more language samples on our website. Channel One's anchors can even be completely generated to have their own personality, appearance, and voice.
And what is AI native news? First, here's what it's not. It's not fake news. There isn't a computer somewhere writing its own news stories about things that haven't happened. Our system relies only on trusted news sources to bring together the best journalism on any topic from around the world into a single news program.
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the mighty FCH Sourcing Network. This is online, on-demand, predominantly fastener-related talk radio with zero artificial ingredients. It's all 100% organically made, folks. Hi again. It's Eric Dudas with you, coming to you from semi-rural Northeast Ohio, and the co-host of Fully Threaded is with us as well. He's lifetime honorary Texan and fashion maven Brian Musker. Hey, Bri, it was great to see you last week in Chicago at the MWFA Christmas party.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was. But I'm not the fashion maven. I'm surrounded by fashion mavens, okay? We've got Bob GQ Bear, and I've got GH3 and his very, very fancy shoes. So you don't need any more.
And don't forget Matt DeLauder.
Yeah, right. And Matt DeLauder, you're right.
And well, we've called the MWFA the best dressed of all the fastener associations for quite some time, and the party was no exception to that. Thanks for clicking in. This is episode 195 of Fully Threaded Radio. This time we're publishing on December 19th, 2023. I think there was precisely zero business discussed at this year's shindig.
Yes, and that might be similar to most cases, okay? This is a very friendly get-together from all the people all around Chicago and actually much wider too. And it's also a charity event, so give to the Toys for Tots.
I think by and large, fastener associations from around the country were doing that. Saw a lot of pictures out there on LinkedIn, SFA, Pac West, and so forth. Big piles of toys, a lot of generous people out there in the fastener industry. And you're right, some people from outside of Chicagoland came in for this one. Namely, I saw Mr. Charlie Kerr out there,
right.
A few others. So very well attended this year. And of course, all the way from the North Pole, it's the same Santa that's been there since probably I started going to these things back in, 07, 08.
Yeah, the Santa sort of watched us all age over the years, actually. It's like kids.
Yeah, and he looks the same.
Right, I don't know how he does it. We'll have to find out what his secret is.
Well, we'll never get to the bottom of that one. It's the magic of the season.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's a little magic in this episode, folks, as we close out the podcast season. I think there is. We've got a big one for you this time as our feature segment. Long time in coming, Mr. Scott Camp from Atlas Distribution Services joins us for a really interesting conversation about how he got started, what led up to his developing Atlas. He's been at it about 10 years, and he calls himself the biggest fastener distributor you've never heard of. Lately, he's been out to change that, making some waves in the associations and I guess keeping a bit of a higher profile. He'll discuss all that. A lot of people know Scott through the NFDA and his early days course at Fastenal. And Brian, I tell you, one thing about this conversation that I really enjoyed is knowing how much it might help some of the younger people in the audience, especially those who are focused on the purchasing side of the business, because he's a self-described purchasing geek. Lots of ideas in how to improve your game there.
Cool. We need inspired people. Everyone does.
Agreed. And you get it in droves during this one. We kick off the episode today with a conversation with Cole Weiler. He's with BoltWise. He's had a lot of conversations with fastener distributors in the recent past as he's been developing his online platform, which is trying to utilize AI to solve some basic distributor challenges. Now, we'll get involved with this, hopefully without turning too many of you off. We call this one today the third rail, and there's a reason for that. We'll get into it a little bit, but AI is scaring some folks off. It shouldn't. That's why we decided we'd throw another little conversation at you today to give you some more to chew on. Maybe while you're taking some downtime over the holidays, you can think on this. It's coming at us, folks. There's no getting away from it. And Cole Weiler has some definite thoughts on that. He'll explain during this conversation.
All right. And he knows a lot about it and has studied it a lot too.
On the Fastener News Report, Fastener Technology International Editor Mike McNulty is joined by AFC Industries CEO Kevin Godin. Most of you know by now the FDI is on a bona fide rally. Scratch your head on that one. We'll take the good news to close out the season. They pour over those numbers. And Mike's also got a new mini feature on the news report today. Marco Rodriguez, he was on a recent episode. He'll update everybody on industrial distribution warehouse space, the leasing terms and so forth that are available during a little mini feature. That's all on the Fastener News Report. On the Fastener Training Minute, Carmen Vertullo's feeling great. He's just back from Disney World, as it turns out. If you took the grandkids, you know, it's not where he personally would prefer to hang out, but...
Well, we don't know that, do we?
Yeah, well, good point. Anyway, that may be true because he's surrounded by fasteners there, and as we know, he thinks about that topic continuously. In this episode, he discusses tamper-proof screws, which are ubiquitous in the theme park and in the world, as it turns out. He'll run through a survey of what are the options these days, and not that anyone in this audience cares too much, some of the ways to break in to the various styles. That's the Fastener Training Minute.
Oh, okay.
Bonus today, Christian Reich of Goebel Fasteners is one of our newest certified fastener specialists in the industry. That's right. He recently attended the Fastener Training Week in LA. He's got a little summary of that leading into the news today. Plus, after the break, we're going to lay on you a little heartwarming tale involving ironclad gloves. This is going back to the Beaver Combat Gloves episode, Bri, from 187.
Okay.
Set the mood around here a little bit, you know. We are going into Christmas. It sometimes doesn't feel like it because we got so many things going on, but we got to get the Yuletide out, man.
Yeah, I know. And then you think, oh, shit, I still got to get presents.
So you do all your shopping online these days and you're still behind?
I don't do it all online. I still some things that I like just to wander around looking for inspiration. I don't get inspiration when I'm online. It's a special thing to wander around with everyone else Christmas shopping in some of the big stores.
All right, you're an old school Christmas shopper. I can dig that. Nothing artificial about that, Bri. I can respect it.
Okay. Now, at some stage, it gets very, very old, and then I stop, okay? But for the moment, it's still running, okay?
Well, Bri, before we get too much further down this high voltage road, we got a fine list of partners for this one, don't we?
Oh, yes, we do. And so coming to the end of the year, we thank them all for being with us all year, and many of them have been with us for years and years. We're very lucky. We've had such a great group of sponsors. We're friends with them. We meet them at the shows. We make sure we all talk. And so I'd encourage you to favour our sponsors with your business. If you're thinking about fasteners, and think of the people who are sponsoring and helping us to bring all this stuff to you, okay? The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, Goebel Fasteners, and Star Stainless Screw Company. Brighton Best International, tested, tried and true. Goebel Fasteners, quality the first time. Star Stainless Screw Company, right off the shelf. Also sponsoring Fully Threaded Radio are Buckeye Fasteners, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, InSequel Software, J-Land Franco, Parker Fasteners, 3Q Inc., Volt Industrial Plastics, Worth Industry North America, and Solution Industries, home of Solution Man.
All right. Well, in the interests of not letting this get too old, let's leave it right there. We got a holiday message from our friend Jake and a few other announcements from our partners. Then we'll be back with more fastener talk, and we'll explain this whole third rail thing a little more.
Yeah.
Talk to you in just a moment, folks. It's Fully Threaded
Radio.
2 men, 1 server, a fastener dog, and a stunning lack of more lucrative alternatives. It's Fully Threaded Radio.
Hey everybody, Jake Davis with BTM Manufacturing. Here we are getting ready to enter the Christmas and holiday season, and I just wanted to pass on my holiday greetings to you all and just thank you for your continued support of BTM Manufacturing. It is greatly appreciated, and just wanted to share a quote that I've been sharing with my friends and family over the years, and I thought, heck, fastener family that I have is just as important to me. So here goes. In the words of Dr. J. Gordon Kingsley, former president of William Jewell College, through it all, Christmas declares a set of values, something about loving and giving, and a set of beliefs, a theology, something about God with us, God within us, God coming close, that ultimately stand for and impart to us our meaning, our reason for being here on earth. Wherever you are and whoever you're spending the holidays with, I just want to give you the warmest season greetings from all of us at BTM, and we hope you just have a wonderful Christmas and Hanukkah season. God bless.
Brighton Best International now carries a line of welding consumables, available in TIG and MIG series. Build your welding inventory with our tested, tried, and true range of welding solutions. Inventory includes TIG consumables, MIG consumables, welding gloves, weld fasteners, cutting tools, and PPE. Visit us at brightonbest.com to download our welding catalogs or contact your BBI representative today. Tested, tried, and true. We are Brighton Best.
Goebel Fasteners has consistently increased its stock inventory in Houston, Texas, as well as focused on developing new, innovative battery-powered cordless tools to improve industry efficiency. Our company's strategy is to provide a level of quality and innovation that stands out among the rest. If you are interested in being part of a brand that is revolutionizing the industry, make sure to contact Goebel Fasteners today to see what we have to offer. Goebel Fasteners, the leading rivet source.
At Star Stainless, the sum of all we do is what we consider star quality. It's not just the quality of the products or the service we offer, but the overall approach to the way we do business. Star Stainless Screw Company is a division of Linfast Solutions Group.
This is Nancy Rich of the Midwest Fastener Association. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric, your online Fastener Amigos, back with you.
Now we're heading into the predominant part.
This is going to be predominantly fastener related. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, right.
I don't know, because we're going to talk about this AI stuff a little bit more here before we get to Cole Weiler, and hope that we don't turn away some of our listeners. But hey, before we do that, so got a call from Jamie Clark of Hodel Natco. Now, if you heard episode 187 of the podcast, you might remember that he was one of the two winners from the Beaver Combat Gloves contest that we had. And Brighton Best sent out to him a couple pairs of his favorite Coyotes. Coyote Tacticals, I believe, is the official name, Bri.
Okay.
Yeah, he ID'd those as the ideal Beaver Combat glove, in his way of thinking.
Okay.
But, if you are familiar at all with Jamie, he's a hardcore dude. He spends a lot of time out in the woods. I mean, he's got this beautiful property out there in Pennsylvania, log cabin, and I don't know, a lot of property woods. And so he cuts wood, he does outdoor camping and woodcraft type stuff. So he knows his gloves, and he uses those quite a bit. Well, he called me, and he says, hey, I'm passing by, and I figured I'd give you a ring. I'm dropping off 2 cases of Coyote Tacticals for one of our customers who has a whole bunch of guys people, let's say. I don't know if they're all guys, but a whole bunch of people who are into various outdoor and mechanical things that would probably make this the perfect gift. So hang on, let me get my text out here. I'll tell you what he said. I'll let you know how it went over. So the text that he sent me after that conversation says, hey, the gloves were a big hit with the customers. Some of these guys own farms, some are hunters, some are just tooling around the yard. But they were all happy with the gesture. Long live Coyote Tactical Ironclad Gloves.
Oh, cool.
So who knew the Beaver Combat Glove contest would have such far-reaching ripples?
Right. If you don't know Jamie, get hold of Hodel and get hold of Jamie, because he's a really interesting guy, as is Hodel, which is an absolute founding member of FCH.
That's right. They've been with us a long time. Jamie is also the chairman of the Carmen Vertullo Appreciation Society.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a big poster of Carmen there in the QA lab.
Oh, cool.
That's a story unto itself. I keep threatening to cover that, but I haven't gotten to it yet. We'll make it out there one of these days. Well, that was a heartwarming story from the standpoint of sharing with your customers and making a special run out there to drop that kind of thing off. A little bit in contrast to what we experienced at the NFDA webinar recently. Now, they did a very well done presentation. It was a Zoom conference, and we talked about it on the last episode. I noticed that there's a replay available on demand on YouTube on the NFDA channel, so anybody interested in that can grab it. But going into that whole thing, I had a conversation with somebody in the industry who everybody would know. I'll leave their name out of it for the moment, but they said, I always get nervous when I'm asked to give input on these kinds of things because, according to them now, every time I do it, I lose a few followers on my social media. And the thinking is, they're turned off by the subject, so they're, clicking off of it. And so that's why we say it is a potential third rail. So we're taking a little bit of a risk here, I think, now, Bri.
Oh, okay. Here's a bit of a different take on a third rail. If you lived in Chicago, the third rail always involves something to do with infrastructure in Chicago that no one can touch.
Well, that's the metaphor, correct?
Yeah.
You don't want to step on it, and it transfers over to politics, and in this case, any subject that you don't want to really step on lest you become injured.
Yeah, right.
Are you, just as a general question, are you using AI at all these days, more or less, since it's become sort of a topic in the fastener industry?
Well, I signed up with AI, I guess, when it was first announced to see quite what you could do with it, and that was ChatGPT 2. And then I, since I don't need something to write my letters for me, those things were not interesting to me. The interesting thing was, what did it really know? And by the time it got to ChatGPT 4, it knew a lot of very obscure things that you would have to be in one part of the empire to have known, okay? But my suggestion is that you don't have to actually necessarily sign up with one of these and pay money for these to test out AI. If you load an app down on your phone from Bing, okay, it has a separate app, which is not necessarily a search engine, but it could be. And one of the tabs in that is AI, and Microsoft is one of the big funders of the AI consortium, just like Google actually. And you can test. You can just click on this tab and then just type a question in, and you'll be dealing directly with one of the big AI engines, and you can ask it questions and see what it really thinks of it. It's an easy way of getting into to find out what could this do for you, and you think about, okay, what if I did this? Okay, so it's on your phone. Probably you can get to it on the web as well if you want to, but it's easier on the phone.
Lots of helpful tips like that on the NFDA presentation as well. So thanks for that. We'll talk more along these lines when we get with Cole in a few minutes. Another piece of news before we jump into that one. Spoke to Bob Chiricosta over at Fastener Fair USA. Now, that's happening May 22nd and 23rd here in the Cleveland area. Well, actually, I'm in the Cleveland area. It's happening in Cleveland. And the welcome reception, the bash, again, is happening at the Rock Hall of Fame. And I can report now that even though it's not on their website yet, Solution Industries General Manager Tim Vath has signed the contract. He and his band will be appearing there.
Okay.
Busting out the tunes. You never know. There may be a guest appearance or two that makes it even more exciting, but we'll have to hold that one back. Fastener Fair USA.
Cleveland's a great place to have it too, though I'm biased. I like downtown Cleveland.
We're going to have to find a place to have a dinner. Remember last time we were so disappointed because our favorite place, the Green Mill Inn, went under, and we can't go there for face anymore. But man, that was legendary.
Well, there are other places close by that are nearly equally as good. Nearly.
We'll have to get our people on that.
So who's that? We'll get. It's either you or me, okay? One of our people. Yeah, we'll get someone on that.
Yeah. All right. One other thing. After the conversation with Cole, we've got the Fastener News Report coming up, and Kevin Godin will be joining Mike McNulty. They'll talk about the FDI. If you receive the FDI report, in other words, if you're on that VIP list or on the participant list and you get the report directly from us each month, there was a minor typo that I caught when I was doing the November issue, and that is November should have been October. I skipped a month. The number was correct, so it was number 142, but it said November. So there are two Novembers, but one's 142 and one's 143. So I don't know if anybody cares, but I just such a stickler for getting that right. I think over 10 years I haven't made that boo-boo yet.
Well, maybe you should said I haven't made it before.
There's my mea culpa.
Yeah, okay.
And of course, after that, it's the Fastener Training Minute. Don't forget, everybody, also, Worth is the sustaining sponsor of the Fastener Training Institute. Saw all these photos fly across from LinkedIn when Fastener Training Week was going, and the Worth logo prominently featured there. Much appreciated. That is a very worthy sponsorship you're doing there.
Yep.
One other programming note, should have mentioned this when we were talking about our upcoming segment with Christian. A weird thing happened on this one, Bri, while we were recording. Actually, the PC that I'm using to run the board crashed in the middle of the session. You guys didn't notice that at first.
Oh, yeah, I knew based on the light on the left. And Christian did too. We just said, keep on going.
Right. Well, I texted you guys, and anyway, it was kind of weird. So The PC came right back up, fortunately, and the recording was in progress. I didn't know actually what you were speaking about. The only reason I mentioned it is because listeners might hear when this plays. You guys touched on the subject of hydrogen embrittlement.
I did. It was sort of surprising. Now, Carmen might tell me it's completely rubbish. But...
Well, no. That's not my point at all. The point is that I didn't have any awareness of that. I didn't even respond, which is, listeners know I wouldn't let that go.
Yeah, true.
So when my PC came back up, I hopped on and tried to make it like I'd been there the whole time, and just caught the end of the thing and wound it down. And then when I did the playback, well, you get it.
Right, yeah. It just so happened on that day, the guy who used to be our neighbours working on my car sent me a picture of one of the head bolts that broke on his Chevy V8. And I looked at it and said, oh shit, that looks like brittle failure to me. It doesn't look like what my old engineering school stuff. And then I sort of said, so how did it happen? Did you have a broken or a faulty head gasket? It was water around the bolt. Anyway, so that was the story. It may be totally wrong. Carm can tell us, okay?
I'm sure he will if he's listening to this. And never let it be said that I pass on an opportunity to comment on hydrogen embrittlement.
Right. Okay. I have never said that, okay?
So with that, let's drop this one and get into this conversation with Cole Weiler. Cole Weiler's with us now. He's with BoltWise. He can address some of these issues we were talking about earlier on the podcast regarding AI in the fastener distributor space. Should we dare to delve into that area? Hey, Cole.
Hey, Eric. Thanks for having me on.
That's right. The question more is, should we not delve into it?
Yeah, you should probably get up to speed on this. So, now, hey, hang on. Before we go into that, you're out there in Sunnyvale, California?
I'm in Denver, Colorado. I have a co-founder who lives out in San Jose, though.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Got it. Well, I knew there was a connection out there. Okay, so we were talking earlier, and we mentioned that somebody we know, a fairly well-recognized name in the industry, whenever they put an AI reference in their LinkedIn feed, they tend to lose followers, and therefore they've stopped doing that. They're just backing away from the whole subject of AI. And this is risky business for us because we're frequently asked to participate in various panels and things like that, which we just had with the NFDA panel. It was a webinar, very successful. So you and your BoltWise platform, which we'll get to know in time, I think, you've done quite a bit of research and interviewing across the industry. I think you told me it was something over 100 or thereabouts distributors you talked to in the pursuit of rolling out a platform that makes sense. What are folks thinking about in the fastener industry when it comes to AI deployment, Cole?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think especially in the last 12 months, AI has taken a forefront in public discussion. I mean, I feel like every night there's a new article or a new news segment about how AI is being used, or, the kerfuffle happening over OpenAI. And so it's been on a lot of people's minds. And as we've been building BoltWise, I've been having conversations about, not just AI, but digitization in general with distributors. And it's obviously a question that's top of mind for a lot of folks. There's, people who are really eager to go out and take advantage of it, seeing some of the opportunities that it can bring to their business. And then there's obviously some people who are reasonably wary about it. And that's why I was so happy to see this NFDA panel last week too, just beginning the discussion and, better educating people about what it can do and what it can't do and some of the things to keep in mind for your business. It's obviously a very technically deep conversation to have. So it's not something that people are usually used to, and it's very difficult to fully understand. But when I talk to people, a lot of different topics emerge. I would say, though, the things I hear most are cybersecurity, already top of mind for a lot of people, but how do they consider cybersecurity with AI? Fear about how it's going to change the labor force going forward. And then other aspects around, if I don't take advantage of this, what is the detriment to my business? A lot of these models are open sourced and can be used by anyone. And if your competitors are out there using them, how do you kind of level the playing field with your own approach? So happy to dive deeper into any of those, but that's pretty much what I'm hearing the most when I talk to folks.
Okay, that's cool. Do they specifically request AI, or do they really use the term AI just to mean really, really smart software?
Yeah. I think, that's one of the things we've seen also is AI is such a wide spectrum of, most people are already using AI and they don't even realize it. But I think with what we've seen over the last year, there's been a really big rise in interest around generative AI and specifically large language models.
Right.
So, what you see being offered from ChatGPT and Google and Meta's models too. But that I think is really the game changer that's changed how people look at AI and beginning to see an opportunity to use a little bit more broadly for their business. And that's also the one that probably is creating a little bit more concern. But I think, being able to use generative AI for certain tasks within your, typical day-to-day, there's a big opportunity, but making sure that you're using it on tasks that are reasonable rather than the ones that are not. And I give an example here too of if you're pulling a sales report every month and it's the same way, the same format, and you're looking at the same stats, like I think there's a lot of push to go, hey, can I do this with AI? Where that's something that I think you guys are very well aware can just be pulled off with traditional programming or a business intelligence tool. But it's really these variable tasks that I think people are beginning to realize, hey, there's an opportunity here. I mean, I use it day to day in a bunch of different modes, but if you think about, okay, what about if I want to ask, how are my customer sales trending compared to other customers in their same end market? A very complex question that most teams are probably not able to really bring visibility to easily without having someone that has a stats background or a coding background write the right SQL query and go pull that information out. That is something that now, as tools develop, you can go and question your database in free text like you would with a coworker and get that answer back, which is a huge change in how we do business and how skills need to be allocated amongst individuals within your organization.
So you're saying that this AI tool, in theory, can allow lower skilled workers to become business analysts. And this is one of the great ideas behind what makes it so powerful. So we've jumped from the initial question, which is what are distributors really looking at? How are they looking to deploy it into really what is it and so forth? And this is what always happens with these. And this information you're dropping on us, it's great. I noticed that you didn't mention anything really, though, about inventory management. You didn't mention anything yet about, say, quoting and many, many other areas. So we're trying to cover a lot in a short amount of time, but you touched on HR stuff and you touched on process automation just very generally. And this is what happens with all these conversations, isn't it? These panels, these webinars and stuff, they get so general. How useful can it be? Have you found that in your conversations also?
Yeah. So, I actually did that on purpose, Eric, of when I have these conversations with folks, I'm not hearing really an ask of, hey, can I use this for proactively forecasting what inventory level I should be holding in a specific warehouse? Right. Because I feel that the conversation really isn't there yet for, not only the fastener industry, but a lot of industries. So prior to BoltWise, I was in the consulting space and working a lot with AI there too. And we were having conversations with executive boards of Fortune 500 companies, and they were asking, hey, how do we use this? It's been on people's radar for probably a lot of people's radar in the business world for the last 5 years or so, but it's really figuring out where can you actually deploy it. And that's, I think, another thing that's commonly misunderstood is it's not something that is a one size fits all approach. And you really need to identify where it is, valid for your business. And if I think about it specifically in the fastener space, you just rattled off some really great opportunities to use AI. If we look at inventory or dynamic pricing analysis, or like what we're doing with BoltWise of, automated quoting and purchasing automation and enhancement. So like these are definitely ways you can use AI. And I think that, but it requires a base understanding of what it's good at and what it's not good at to be able to have that conversation. A lot of the times, the conversations I have are around the quoting piece and the procurement piece because it's the area we're interested in. But as we started this venture, definitely just people questioning, overall, what does this provide my business at a high level and where should I be cautious?
Well, you want people to be cautious a little bit because you don't want people to jump into something that they don't really know how to control.
Yeah, and I think, though, really when it comes to how you're going to use AI, specifically in small and medium businesses, is, most of those companies are going to see more value in going out and working with a provider that has the application they're looking for. So
correct.
If it is dynamic forecasting of my inventory, that requires a lot of specific development on top of an AI model to make that work well. And so that's something that you're going to go work with a team on. Now, you might have your employees using ChatGPT to do any number of tasks, whether, we heard on the panel of writing emails or preparing marketing posts. Those are definitely ones that are a little bit more approachable and don't require the same specific level of precision that's needed for some of these more advanced tasks. But it really, spans the gamut. And I think that most companies are going to go out and find which application works well for them rather than trying to create something in-house. As something we've been looking to. It's a very difficult problem to attack, and definitely not for the faint of heart.
No.
So we bump into this question that occurred to me when you first started speaking today on this segment, Cole, and that is about this AGI. I used a different term, though. It was generalized AI, was it? And so I want to just make the point that the terminology here, it does get a little confusing to folks at some level. And frankly, this may be why people tend to zone out during AI conversations. Because, again, let's face it, if you're a person who's going to be using a shrink-wrapped solution, like, let's say, AI in your antivirus on your email, you don't really care. You're just a guy who wants to get through his day and not really screw up the whole network by letting a virus loose, right? So you're using an AI-enabled antivirus tool at that point. You don't really care about the nomenclature, AGI, generalized, whatever it might be, or even the difference between that and some kind of just like an office productivity suite level AI, right? So therefore, I always wonder, why do we bring these things into the conversation when we're trying to just speak to people who want to get a job done?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I think even I know what you're referring to. That's even the distinction between GAI and AGI. GAI being generative intelligence and AGI being artificial general intelligence. As close as those are, completely different concepts.
So they're not interchangeable.
No, unfortunately not. But GAI being the generative intelligence, what we see with large language models like ChatGPT, is really what we're seeing come to the forefront in the past year or so. Just for sake of discussion, AGI is more so, if you look longitudinally into the future, ultimately what companies like OpenAI are looking to achieve, which is an AI that's able to fit all of those different molds that we were just talking about. Of, right now we're working with very narrow AI applications that, they do exactly like you said. Antivirus, that's a specialty. No reason in asking that to go help you on your taxes. But that ultimately is where folks are looking to move. Now, to answer your question about why is it important to understand, I think you're totally right when it comes to, hey, am I using AI already in my antivirus, or if I'm using it already in my pricing analysis, then, the tech aspect of it isn't as critical. I think what we've seen, though, in the past year or so is a huge step change in what AI is able to deliver. And I think it's important for people to realize that we're now on a trajectory that is a little bit different from what we were seeing over the past decade, and really has an opportunity to accelerate business growth and business efficiency. And I think the biggest risk that companies face, at least in my opinion, which albeit is probably pretty biased, is not paying attention to what these opportunities mean for your industry and your business. Generative AI is very different than what we've seen before. And now, like we mentioned earlier, is allowing you to kind of abstract the specific skills that used to be required of, hey, I have someone on my team, and if as long as they can conversate on a topic in English, then they're able to extract from a generative AI tool an answer that might have previously required statistics knowledge or development knowledge.
Yes, that's very, very smart and it's logical. But what you're saying is we're quietly heading off towards the singularity. Okay.
I won't say it, but it's definitely been a long-term interest of mine, so I can't help but go there.
Yes. So you mean you know who Ray Kurzweil is then?
Yes, very familiar.
I was hoping to avoid turning this into a short version of the Lex Friedman podcast, but I know that it's inevitable we delve into all this. And actually, I know you were on the call during the NFDA webinar. I participated in something similar in a live format in August back at Fastener Week with the MWFA. And we launched into, at the end, sort of this open-ended kind of a potential end of the world as we know it kind of a scenario. And yeah, we got a lot of stares from the audience. I don't know that they were prepared for that. They just want to know how to sell some screws, man.
Yeah, no, and I get it. And I think to answer the question that you asked me first of how can you actually go and deploy it? Part of that's what I'm saying of it's better probably to work with a provider who's already, looking into that for you. But even if it's just to get people's minds going on, where could this be benefit? Mm-hmm. I've seen some really incredible applications come out, and there's always a new development, and there's always a better model that's being made available. And a lot of these are, open source, meaning commonly available and not protected. So other people are able to develop on top of them. And so there's platforms where I've seen, okay, you have a customer contract come through and it's 100 pages. And now you can look for a specific clause within that contract, regardless of how it's phrased, just by querying it through free text of hey, tell me where the clause on service level is in this contract. And being able to do that is something that you can think about all the different ways that can expand across your business and all the different, I think about it as hands-on keyboard tasks where you're not really having your employee do a skill that is true to their, the skills that they've been working on for their career, whether that's any interpersonal relationships they're able to leverage or background knowledge that they're able to use, but rather they're simply doing manual tasks. Those I think are really the ones for me that are most interesting. Not only do you get huge efficiency gains as a company there, but as an individual myself, I find those tasks to be really not enjoyable and not what makes the highlight of my day. And that's really, I think, where we're seeing AI become super beneficial to be able to deploy, whether it is going and automating data that's coming into your system or even going and retrieving that data. Those are things that I think, we'll look back in 5 years and say, wow, I can't believe we used to do that.
Yeah. I think a lot of the examples that they provided, Rosa from Brighton Best, she launched off the webinar and she put some real practical examples out on the table. Anybody who wants to see that, by the way, the NFDA made the webinar on demand available, so that's cool. But one of the terms that I was not familiar with that was thrown out there was artificial empathy for customer interactions. So, the thing is actually capable of assuming your voice and then, I don't know, apologizing for a screwed up order. But not that ever happens to Brighton, of course. But, I could see how that would be useful, given the public education system these days.
I was telling Eric I watched it wasn't really a webinar, but it was a video made by one of the guys who sold his AI company to Google. And he was showing you how you modify these LLMs. And he showed how you could so easily, he was an Australian guy, change the way the model was giving its answers to conversational Australian.
That is pretty good.
And it was not just like what they stick in the movies. It was really hunky-dory Aussie, dinky-die Aussie. It was a wide knowledge of very Australian slang.
Yeah, I mean, it's super impressive. Now that with the internet and being able to go and pull so much data of probably every Australian joke that's ever been told on a blog or forum or whatever it may be, it gets really good. I mean, I see people write jokes with it all the time and ones that genuinely make me laugh. So I definitely think it's improving in that manner too, and it's pretty impressive. When I think about it in the fastener space too, if we look at what are people talking about outside of AI, because like you mentioned, Eric, I've had so many conversations. Most of these conversations are not revolving around AI, but just generally, what are you looking to do with your business? How are you looking to grow? What do you see your business looking like in 10 years? I would say one that is very common is, how do I adjust as my workforce retires? So I have a lot of folks on my team who've been doing this for 30, 40 years for my family business, and they know my customers, they know my parts, they know our process better than anyone else. And that's very difficult to replace as those folks, look to retire. And it's also difficult to kind of find, young people in the fastener industry who are looking to make a really long career out of it. And so you're really stuck with kind of building up your company, especially if you want to be around for the next couple decades. And I think that's, for me, kind of like you mentioned, Brian, of an interesting application for AI is taking that knowledge and context that is inherent to individuals. And as long as you can get the data out, you're starting to be able to fill in those gaps for some new people and allow them to ramp up more quickly. If I wanted to go to Australia and speak in Australian dialect, it would be very difficult for me to do otherwise, but I'm sure I could spend some time with ChatGPT asking it some common phrases, and I could at least start to fake my way through and start on a better foot than I might otherwise.
Oh, yeah. Man, what I watched, I'm very familiar with Australian slang. I lived there for 6 years. This knew what is very, very, very specialised to Sydney only, which is what they call Cockney rhyming slang. It came over with the prisoners when they settled Australia. It's so specific that this thing would use some of these words. The classic example, which I've used before, is them using a word that rhymes with a word you're trying to use. Cockney speak. Don't say there are sharks out there. You just say there's Noah's, because Noah's Ark rhymes with shark.
Watch out for the Noah's, mate.
Yeah, the Noah. Watch out for the Noah. But this answered using Cockney rhyming slang. Half Australians wouldn't know how to do that. Okay?
No, it is amazing. You figure if it can absorb that kind of deep knowledge, then speccing out a fastener should be possible too.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Or in any language you want.
Well, I'll tell you, on her presentation, Rosa also mentioned that they're using translation as one of the implementations of AI too, and they're doing it very successfully. So, yeah, that's an exciting area. Let's turn to BoltWise for a second, because it wouldn't be fair to invite you into this conversation, Cole, and tease everybody and say you're doing all this research with these interviews and things without giving BoltWise look-see. And so you're describing it very briefly. I know it does a lot, but you're saying that it's a way to streamline quoting for fastener distributors. So how does the AI come into play with that?
Yeah, I really appreciate you bringing it up. And, I'm here for the talk on AI. I love the topic. I've been interested in it for a long time, and you'll be lucky if you can get me to leave. But always happy to talk about BoltWise too. I absolutely love what we're working on, and it's always happy to spread the word. But yeah, so what I was doing previously to this is I was helping a lot of automotive and aerospace companies and heavy industrial companies buy components, and would buy stuff all under the sun. So castings, electronic components, but a lot of fasteners too. And when it came to fasteners, it was always one of the most difficult categories to go out and source due to how many fasteners you see. And even before talking to fastener distributors, I was always dreading when we had to go out and do a big quote for fasteners. Now talking to distributors, it's funny how many times I hear this concept of 2% of the bill of materials, 90% of the headaches. And that is what we saw on the other end too. And that's what we set out and to build and to help with is how can we create a tool for fastener distributors so that when some customer, probably like myself in the past, dumps a bunch of garbage on their desk, they don't eat up all of their team's time responding to that quote or, just missing out on their business. And that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier with this idea of taking knowledge that is currently, trapped in the minds of your best employees and building that into a model that then allows an average person who is not as familiar with the fastener industry begin to navigate your data more seamlessly. So building that connection so you can quickly go and respond to your quotes and get back to your customers more quickly and provide a service level that your competitors are probably going to have no idea how you're able to do. And I think that's really where this advantage with AI exists of if I can respond to a quote in an hour and my competitors can respond to it in a week and a half, now you have a massive advantage over your competitors. And a lot of that can be enabled just through, traditional automation. And however, AI, specifically generative AI, plays a big role in that too.
Big time, big time. All right, you got a lot of people's attention with that.
Right,
We'll hear more about BoltWise and all that as time goes on. We have reason to postpone a deeper investigation at the moment, but we'll have you back on and we'll talk about it in more depth. But I'd be surprised if your phone doesn't ring a little bit from this.
Right, that's an exact question that we have been asked way in the past too. The whole problem of quoting.
It's an ongoing head scratcher.
Yeah,
so thanks for that. There's different ways to approach it. Here's another one. Well, Cole, it's been great to speak to you. I think we did go off the rails a little bit, but on the other hand, the whole conversation was super useful, and it's clear you're a guy who knows the space, and we thank you for being here.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it, guys. And I really do think that obviously this is a conversation that could go on for days, but I think, if I had one thing to share with distributors out there who are hearing about the topic and looking to learn more, it's just start learning. That's why I was so happy to join this. And that's why I was so grateful to see the AI panel put on last week. I think just beginning to learn, it is a complex topic, and starting to fill those gaps really can help answer how you can use it for your business too.
It's only your imagination that limits it.
Exactly.
Cole Weiler, he's with BoltWise, and this is Fully Threaded Radio.
Fastener Talk Radio. It's like feng shui for the fastener industry. Brian and Eric, Fully Threaded Radio.
At Worth Industry North America, we know that in today's world, you need a supply chain partner that you can depend on. We provide the products you need to keep your business moving. Data-driven inventory management solutions, industry-leading technology, and the global stability of the Worth Group, combined with an unrelenting commitment to local partnership. Discover superior supply chain security at www.worthindustry.com.
Fastener Distributors. 3Q Inc. is the best-kept secret for all of your fastener needs. 3Q is the premier sourcing solution for the fastener distribution market. 3Q offers stock and release programs on all special fastener products, from flat washers, lock nuts, cold form specials, to bolts and screws. Looking to add the highest quality line of self-drilling screws? Check out the pull-tight line of serrated self-drilling screws. They bite. Distributors who know of 3Q wonder how they ever operated before without the high level of service and quality support provided by 3Q and their staff. The number 3, the letter Q, 3Q Inc. Quality products, quality service, quality customers. Welcome to 3Q.
Since 1905, Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company have been supplying the world with high-quality fasteners. Our standard product lines include weld fasteners, braided weld screws, leg levelers, self-clinching hardware, clevis pins, rivet nuts, and various other fastener lines, allowing us to support virtually all types of industries. BuckeyeFasteners.com. Buckeye Fasteners, more than just weld.
Hi, this is Tim Roberto Jr. from Star Stainless Screw Company. You're listening to Brian and Eric on Fully Threaded Radio.
Well, it's time to change focus away from AI at the moment and switch over to news.
Right, yeah, we've done that to death, I think.
Yeah, well, there's more coming, don't worry. But Mike McNulty, as you know, folks, is always focused like a laser on the fastener industry. This time he'll be talking with Kevin Godin, AFC Industry CEO. They'll go over the latest FDI, which is pretty darn good if you ask me, Bri.
Yeah, I know.
They do bump into AI a little bit, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you would have edited that out.
I considered it, but, it's what people are talking about. That's why we are pressing on. But this time, pressing on with his wider fastener education, much to his credit and many of the other students. Fastener Training Week just concluded in L.A. Christian Reich with Goebel was there. He's on the line with us now. Hey, Christian.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
We're doing great, thanks. So now you've got to get used to Texas temperatures after LA temperatures, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we got a cold front in last night, so I think we're sitting at about 48 today, so it's not too bad.
Wow, it's pretty cold for you.
Yeah, a light jacket.
Yeah.
Well, how did it go out there in L.A.? What was the scene like at the Fastener Training Institute this time? It looked like a great crowd. We were watching pretty intently on LinkedIn.
It was a great class. So it was our first time attending. Me and TJ McFarland from Goebel Fasteners were in attendance. We also saw Jake Davis from BTM there. I think the class overall had about 29 students.
That's good.
It was a really good turnout. And so our focus in attending the class was to learn a little bit more about nuts and bolts and screws and the like, because our primary focus is, of course, blind rivets. And so we knew a little bit, obviously, from the hardware shop talk and stuff like that, grade 5, grade 8, but we really wanted to know a little bit more in-depth knowledge about that threaded product range. And I think we came away with a lot of useful information. So Salim and Lawrence did a great job. They were both the class instructors.
Yeah.
And kind of traded off throughout the week on, I guess, which section of the class that they specialized in. And so they definitely have quite the resume, both of them being part of the IFI and other organizations that assist in quality standards throughout the industry.
Yeah.
And overall, it was a really good class. Some highlights were learning about the different grades, of course, the metallurgy. And then at the end, we reviewed the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge anchor rod failure case from 2013. And that was really interesting. I had no idea. So that was kind of focused on hydrogen embrittlement. And that was a whole nother section of the class that we briefly touched on, but that seems to be quite the topic to kind of divulge into.
So amazing Eric, wasn't there? That's his favorite topic. Yeah. Right. So Eric, just so you know, Eric,
he just crashed.
He's got he's just coming back up now. So whatever we've recorded is just fine. Okay, this is one of the great benefits of this platform. So actually, interesting. This is not going to be recorded that Eric will put there, but a friend of mine, his engine blew up, and it was as a result really of I guess water leaked around one of the gaskets and got around one of the bolts, the head bolts, and seemed like hydrogen embrittlement. Seemed like one of the head bolts suddenly broke off and flew out, and there's no way it could really happen unless it was something like hydrogen embrittlement that would do it.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was sort of wild to see. I was looking at it over the weekend.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff.
So now, what do you learn relative to rivets then? Do you use like the different grade 5s and 8s and rivets?
No, so they do not apply to rivets at all.
There are special structural rivets, though. There are.
Yes,
there
are.
Special type of thing.
Yes, and then they'll apply to like an IFI standard, but they don't have grades.
Okay, right.
So are we talking to a whole room full of new CFPs? Or at least one new CFP? I didn't catch that, Christian. I didn't want to put you on the spot, but I guess I am.
Yeah, well, I mean, we hope that we will pass the test, so and surely we will. So we haven't gotten around to starting it yet, but I think a few of the classmates had already completed it over the weekend. We're going to try to do it this week.
Oh, okay. So that's how they handle it. It's not done on site. I was under a misconception then.
Yeah, no. So they complete the class, and then they give us the link at the end of the class to go take it on our own when we return home.
So do they have somewhere outside where Jake can tie his burrow up and he comes riding in with his coffee beans?
I think they had an option, and I think he had mentioned talking with Joe Morris moving forward to sponsor the coffee for the event. We had the hotel coffee, but that BTM U-Bolt coffee is much better. So,
right. Very well said.
There you go. Well, thanks for the update on all that, Christian, and congratulations to you and TJ, Valdez, the whole crew, because it's really a wonderful thing to expand your knowledge in the fastener space. And even though, as you said, you're really playing in a niche, to have that wider understanding, it just helps you overall, and it helps you, I guess, communicate as you move through the industry.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It does.
Yeah. We're very glad that we took the class.
Good.
It's always good to see our sponsors doing stuff like that. And at this point, I guess I'll mention the Fastener News Report, as everyone knows, has been brought to us by Volt Industrial Plastics for many years. We sure do appreciate that. Plus, the title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio, Bright and Best International, Star Stainless, and Goebel Fasteners. Christian, what's going on right now with Goebel? before you answer that, you're not upset with me that I say Goebel, right? Because I noticed just now you were saying Goebel, and this controversy we keep having.
No, both forms work.
All right. So what's the latest?
So the biggest new thing for us over at the Goebel Group is our Made in Germany production project. So Marcel Goebel bought out a factory last year and brought all the machines over to Germany as a reshoring project. And so we have about 75 machines that'll make up multiple production lines that are slated to launch next year. And so we're pretty excited about that.
Wow.
We started our first testing on actual production runs this past week. And so it's pretty exciting.
Impressive.
We're going to have Marcel on an upcoming episode. I asked him in Vegas, and he gave me the kind of the look like, oh, can't Christian and TJ do it? But, man, I'd love to get him on. You think he'll do it?
Oh, I think so. With enough asking him, I think he'll do it. He's pretty pumped up about the whole project. So once you get him started, I think he'll give you some good content.
Oh, yeah, cool. He's a very exciting person, and he's really driven Goebel in amazing directions. So I hope that can happen one of these days. Well, it's always good to have anyone from your team on the podcast. Thanks again for all the support. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Why don't you take the wheel, Christian? You know what time it is now.
Yep. And now with news about screws that you can use, here's Mike McNulty.
Thanks, Christian. This is Mike McNulty from Fastener Technology International Magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report, which is sponsored by Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners. College presidents are losing their minds and jobs. The NCAA wants to create a professional college sports league. The barrage of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and Giving Tuesday promotions have finally ended, and from dusk until dawn, most neighborhoods are like mine, warmly and beautifully lit up with Christmas lights and spotlights on houses, trees, wreaths, inflatables, nativity sets, and a litany of other plastic, metal, and wooden Christmas characters. But I am still focused on fasteners and ready to deliver today's Fastener News Report. In this episode, AFC Industries CEO Kevin Godin joins us to reveal the latest results of the Fastener Distributor Index, also known as the FDI. Also in today's broadcast, we have our top story on Hewitt and Big H, as well as newsmaker headlines from Bolton, Nefco, Chicago Rivet, Semblex, Infasco, Ford Fasteners, the IFI, and more. On the back page report, we're going to talk about a manufacturing powerhouse. We'll get to all of that and the latest FDI results right after this.
When price is a big concern and you don't have high tensile strength requirements to worry about, ever think to yourself, why not plastic? Hey everyone, it's Heidi from Bolt Industrial Plastics. Next time you need to find a solution that requires keeping costs as low as possible, give Volt a call and put our team of skilled customer service representatives to work for you. Plastic fasteners can make sense on a wide range of applications that you might not have considered before and provide your customers with big savings. So the next time you have trouble with price and delivery, just think, why not plastic? From everyone here at Bolt Industrial Plastics, thanks for another great year. And you know the website, it's boltplastics.com.
We all know this is about winning the war on notebooks. We can't do that without the ability to offer hard-to-find metric fasteners, manufactured to ISO and DIN standards. Delivered fast, faster, or as fast as your star-spangled man with a plan. Every quote you request, Eurolink fulfills. Help keep America's workers armed and ready with any metric fastener in the multiverse. With Eurolink, you get what you want when you want it. Eurolink, hard-to-find metric fasteners, delivered.
Mike McNulty.
The seasonally adjusted Fastener Distributor Index for November 2023 improved for the second straight month, moving up to 53.4 versus 52.6 in October, the third 50 or above result out of the last 9 months. The forward-looking indicator, also known as the FLI, also improved to 50.4 versus 47.1 the previous month, the first above 50 result since July of 2022, breaking a streak of 15 straight sub-50 FLIs. Fastener Distributor Index data is collected and analyzed by the FCH Sourcing Network and Baird. The FDI seeks to identify demand, pricing, and outlook trends within the American fastener distribution industry. To get some insight on these results, we talked to AFC Industries CEO Kevin Godin. Hello, Kevin. Thanks for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
Hello. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's good to have you on the Fastener News Report, and the listeners are anxious to hear what you think about the latest FDI and FLI results.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here. And yeah, this is a good one, right? So,
right.
Yeah, as you mentioned, you get a couple of readings that are in expansionary territory, which is good to see as we head into the end of the year. And I think this year especially, it's good to see that. I think early in the year, people were preparing for the worst, not sure kind of how things were going to go, with good reason, right? There were several fairly reliable indicators that were pointing to recession that never really happened. And so we've been sort of in this holding pattern, waiting to see kind of what the next thing is going to bring. And, just like anything, no one number really means a lot, but you start to string together multiple numbers, then it makes you feel a little more confident that people are seeing some sort of sustained either stabilization or even some potential upside. So that's really good to see on the FDI, and then even the FLI coming back up into above 50. I think that's a good sign. Although again, we'll see kind of how that looks if we can string together a few of those. But you look at the 6-month overview and those numbers, you got 76% of the people feeling longer term. Things are improving.
Yeah, that's a good result there too. The key phrase that you mentioned there, I think, is it never really happened. We've been talking about when's the recession going to come, or is it going to be a soft one, or is it going to be a long one, and it just didn't happen. So that's
it didn't. And what's interesting about that is, I think in our business, and as I talk to peers, there certainly are areas where there's some weakness and some headwinds and some things slowing down, and those have been to a large extent offset by other areas. And so, depending on what your customer mix is or geography or end markets, that you may see a little more, a little better or a little worse, but overall things were far more resilient from a manufacturing distribution standpoint than I think a lot of people were expecting. And even these numbers are still, the FDI number now is still slightly more positive than either of the PMIs. You have two different PMI. The market PMI manufacturing index is really just the U.S., and the U.S. ISM one includes U.S. companies that have overseas. So that one's even weaker. But I think this is probably really good insight into our industry, and doesn't diverge wildly, but is a little more positive than those numbers are even now.
Yeah, you mentioned the PMI that when you get the report, they've got the ISM PMI there too, and it's pretty flat. It's still below 50, so we're doing better than the others.
That's right, and I think what's important too, as I look at this number though, and just it's a positive number, but I think you have to drill down into what are the components. And when you do look at that, I think there's some reason to say, okay, we still need to be. We still need to be careful in how we're managing our businesses, because you can see some things that are, not everything is necessarily pointing to some huge resurgence. And so it indicates sort of a continuing to move forward. So you see pricing both month to month and pricing year to year. You see some declining there. You see supplier deliveries declining faster. Inventories are up. So when you look at sales and employment, that's nice. But when you start to think about what are each of these things telling us in their relation to one another, my view on it is, and I think a lot of people have said this, that we're probably still going to have some headwinds and some areas of weakness in the early part of the year. We're probably not through all of that yet, but there's good news. There's a silver lining, which is there is some resiliency there as well. And so we're expecting it's going to be a few months before we probably really get a clear picture on what 24 is going to end up like, but cautiously optimistic that, we'll continue to kind of bounce around the mean here, and then, start to hopefully see some strengthening in a few months.
Yeah, no, remind the listeners, we're talking about the numbers from November. We're talking about them in December. So the actual last data points of the year won't be collected till the end of December and talked about the first month of 2024. So it'll be interesting to see how we finish out the year. But, you mentioned the numbers, like sales was 63. That's the highest number we've seen in 3 quarters. And employment also getting up pretty high, as well as both the inventory numbers. So those were all up. And then you mentioned delivery and pricing down. So you said, these temper things, like what in particular, what are the deliveries being lower with sales higher? What does that tell you?
Well, again, I think what we're really looking for is, what is this telling us about demand? What is this telling us about capacity, right? And so people have been burning off inventory, supplier capacity may be improving. So one of the things that's interesting to me is that sales number relative, because I'm always looking at, how do you triangulate this? Like a 63 through the end of November, that is, it'll be interesting to see how much of that is sentiment, right? It just was better than expected. So it's because that's a pretty significant jump. And so when you start to see supplier delivery declining, you start to see pricing declining. I think you're seeing some of the rabbit go through the snake in terms of some of the supply chain stuff still, some of the backlogs that people had. And so we'll see what that sales number does if it stays at that level. But I think we're in a period of time where I don't want to say choppiness, but there's some lumpiness, right? And so things are starting to find their own level as we head into the end of the year. And for a lot of us, December is always a bit of a toss-up, right? You have the holidays in there,
right,
and that kind of thing. So we'll see.
And many people may be shutting down the last week of December.
That's right.
So, all right, good. Well, you mentioned the 6-month outlook and that it moved in a pretty good direction. The last month, it was like kind of a bell curve. We had a lot of people expecting things to be the same, 45% expecting to be the same, and then 29% better and 26% worse. This month, it kind of pushed forward to 47% thinking it's going to be better, 29% the same, and only 24% thinking it's going to be worse. So that's a significant move.
It is, and there's some, I think there's some building positivity around the longer term picture. There, I saw a Deloitte number the other day that manufacturing construction, in terms of expansion of plants and new plant construction in the U.S., is nearly 20 times. The investment in that is nearly 20 times this year what it was in 2019. And there's some that's a massive number, right? And those plants are not all online, right? And so there's reasons for that, right? CHIP Acts, people are looking at the interest rates, and some of these projects that might have been put on hold maybe are breaking loose. And so, there's reasons to think that the long-term outlook is still very positive, very strong for U.S. manufacturing. I think the question is going to be, in the short term, how does all of that play out?
Well, it's been an interesting year, and will be interesting to see how we finish up and head into the new year. But things are looking up, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's a good time, right, to look at our businesses, and even if there is a little bit of lumpiness, right, that's an excellent time to improve your business and prepare it for what I think appears to be really good long-term prospects.
Good. All right. Let's move on we get commentary to go over here, and it's as you might guess, it's pretty positive. I'll go ahead and read these, and you're welcome to jump in with any thing that you want to add to these comments. The first one says, even though we continue to get mixed signals, kind of like your choppiness, from customers overall, the past 2 months have produced positive gain in bookings, and invoice sales should continue to increase over the next 6 months. Positivity is starting to grow concerning the short-term outlook for our organization, end quote.
Yeah. A very succinct way to say what I was saying.
The next comment is, As an exclamation point, it says, "Business is brisk. This will be our best, all in capitals, November in company history with record shipping and booking. No signs of a slowdown." End quote. That one's even more bullish.
Yeah.
Then the next one is a little bit more tempered. It says, quote, "The slowdown finally steadied. Incoming orders are starting to pick up a bit. Inventory is arriving at the fastest pace in the last 3 years. Factories overseas are slow and pricing is coming down even in stainless." Any experience with stainless on your end?
Yeah, I think we're seeing some of that as well, and that goes back to how people are impacted. It's gonna be a little bit different depending on your product mix and your end market mix, but we're seeing capacities and some of the commodity pricing begin to put you in a slightly more favorable position than I think we anticipated we'd be in at this point in the year a few months ago.
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago. There was a lot of alarm bells on stainless. And okay, we got a few more comments. The next one says there is still some uncertainty what market conditions will be like, but leaning to slow growth for the year, with the first half slower and then picking up in the second half. So growth, slow growth, fast growth, medium growth.
Yeah, well, I think you have to comp the comps too. We're coming off a couple of years where many people have experienced tremendous growth, and so if you're growing on top of a couple of nice years like that, I think the percentages may be lower, which sometimes makes people think, what are we doing? What do we need to do? But if you kind of look at the aggregate number, I think a lot of these businesses should do pretty well if they've positioned themselves properly with their customers.
Our second last comment is also more of the same. It says, "We see higher sales in the next 6 months, more due to new business than due to increases from current business." And then the final comment is a little bit maybe of a tongue-in-cheek. It says, quote, "I wish 2024 wasn't an election year." End quote.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of people wishing that, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Although they seem like if you're in the media business, every month is an election year or something.
Right. It all blends together. The campaigns never stop anymore.
Right. It's just endless, and it's a ratings driver in that. So, anyways, good commentary all around. Anything else to add about the FDI or the FLI before we give you a chance to talk about AFC?
No, again, I think it's good to string together a couple of positive months here, especially as we head into the last month of the year, and so we'll see. But I think it's the start of a trend that we'll hope continue.
All right. As we always do in this report, we want to give you a chance to talk about what's going on at AFC Industries. And I saw you did a podcast with Modern Distribution Management where they were talking about your growth over the last couple of years and all your acquisitions and everything. And now you're on you moved on to their top distributor list at number 34, I believe, overall, and number 8 for fasteners. So it seems like you got a lot going on. You want to bring the listeners up to date?
Yeah, so we obviously have been busy. Our business has been growing nicely organically, and then we continue to do acquisitions, and we expect that we'll continue that and hopefully continue to move up that list, right? But it's really a testament to the team that we have, and we just have some tremendous people who really care about their customers and care about what they're doing, and that enables us to move quickly and continue to keep our foot on the gas pedal because, we just have a lot of confidence in the team we have and the great people that are working every day to make sure people have their parts.
And you don't want to give listeners any heads up on who you're going to be acquiring.
Well,
that would defeat the purpose.
Yeah, we have some things in the pipeline, and I'm sure you'll hear about them shortly.
Very good. Yeah, it seems like you guys are definitely headed in the right direction. I also saw that you were past president of the National Fastener Distributors Association, the NFDA. You want to give us any heads up on what's going on with the NFDA?
Certainly, yeah. It was a privilege to serve in that capacity. Again, that's a great group of folks who care about the industry, and they're working hard to make sure that good values being available to the members. And a couple of things I would just highlight. One is there's a lot of work that goes on and continues to go on around the content. Making sure that the content at the meetings and these webinars and things is helpful to people. So, I just encourage people to participate in that and give feedback. If there's something that you would like to see that you're not seeing, reach out to your contacts at NFDA and let them know that, because they're doing a lot of work to get what people want to have and what they think will be helpful to their business. Also, I think from my perspective, the partnership with the young fasteners professionals has been really important, and I think this industry is going to be one of those industries where we need to invest in the people who are coming into the industry who are newer, and somebody along the way invested in each of us and took us under their wings to help us learn and help us build our networks, and I would just encourage people to continue to do that as well, because although we compete with one another, it's in all of our interest to have a healthy industry. So, I think they're doing a good job over there, and I just encourage people to participate.
Yeah, they've got a lot going on, and there was, you talk about the young people. If you're in Vegas, there's a lot of new faces and a lot of energy, and the industry's strong, as we see by the numbers and the activity. So it's all good to see. I don't know when this is actually going to get posted, but I know there's a YFP and NFDA virtual holiday party on December 14th. But I'm too old to attend. But
well, it's easier to drive home safely from the virtual parties.
That's right. And there was just a roundtable on AI done by the NFDA.
Yeah, I wasn't able to make that one, but obviously AI is. We've talked about it here, I think, on the podcast before. It's a disruptive tool that's changing the way people do business, and everyone needs to understand it and be aware both of the good things and the bad things about it, and understand how to use it.
I listened in. It was it was well done. A lot at times I was mentally overwhelmed. At other times, things clicked with me. But then one thing that stuck out, they said there's something like 7,000 new AI services coming out every month, I believe, which is just mind-boggling.
Yeah, well, it's like any new technology, right? There'll be a lot of things that end up kind of falling by the wayside, and those things that truly add value will grow in importance. And
All right, good. Now, before we close, I got one more subject to bring up. I saw on your LinkedIn page that you're a graduate of Michigan. And so we've been prognosticating here about the FDI and the industry and economics and stuff like that. And do you have any predictions for the first week of NCAA football playoffs?
Well, I certainly would. Look, I think it's going to be a great game. I think the way the teams are built at Michigan should be competitive in that game. I'd like to see them win. I believe they can win, but it's Alabama, so
right.
So we'll see. I think this year was kind of crazy chaos with there were probably 6 or 7 teams that all could have won it all, and so we'll see what happens. But go blue.
So it's an exciting time for the maize and blue.
Indeed it is. It's been kind of a crazy year for us up here, but we're looking forward to watching some good football. Hopefully all of the playoff games are competitive. That's what you want to see, and hopefully at the end Michigan wins it all. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah, there's a lot of good teams in there, but you're sitting here talking to a guy in Northeast Ohio who graduated from Ohio State, so
yeah,
a little bit of sadness.
Well, I've experienced a lot of sadness on the other side of that. So,
yeah. And I said, this is for anybody who watches football. I said to one of my friends as I was watching the game, and they still have 2 of the best helmets in the whole college football thing, with the scarlet and gray with the Buckeyes, and then the maize and blue helmets, like kind of the warrior type thing. And
absolutely,
classic,
two great programs, and a lot of tradition and history. It's always fun, and it's more fun when you win. But yeah,
exactly right. Yeah, the guy two houses down from me always puts up his Michigan flag when things go well, and then there's somebody 4 houses down who puts up his Georgia flag when.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, it's all in. It's entertaining and good fun. And I did see that there was a list of the top-rated television ratings on college football this year, and Michigan Ohio State was number 1 again. And I think it doubled up on the second place game. So
Yeah, well, there's nothing quite like that game if you've went to either school or if you're associated with those schools. And some people get kind of crazy. I think it is a game and it's fun.
It is a game. It's fun.
Good.
All right. Well, good luck. Good luck on that end, and good luck in the fastener world as well. And keep on growing. And thanks for joining us to talk about the FDI and the FLI.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
That was AFC Industries CEO Kevin Godin. The FDI number for November 2023 was 53.4 versus 52.6 in October. Visit FDIsurvey.com to participate in the process and get a detailed PDF copy of Baird's monthly analysis. Now for today's top story. On December 1st, 2023, Hewitt acquired all of the assets and business of Big H Corporation, which also does business as PacFast and Mobile Fasteners. Big H was founded by Howard Beeman, a.k.a. Buddy, in 1974, and over the next 49 years, it expanded to 84,000 square feet of industrial space in South Houston, Texas. The acquisition of Big H solidifies Hewitt's market presence as a master distributor of industrial fasteners and incorporates Big H's expertise and established customer relationships into Hewitt's operations, representing a significant step forward in Hewitt's growth strategy. This move lays the foundation for a seamless transition of 45,000 new SKUs, largely consisting of new threaded fasteners that Hewitt was previously not offering. Timothy O'Keefe, Hewitt CEO, stated, quote, "We're excited to welcome Big H Corporation into the Hewitt family. We look forward to continuing the Big H legacy and delivering unparalleled products and services to our customers," end quote. O'Keefe also commented on plans to expand the Big H Houston machine shop, as Hewitt has done in Phoenix, Arizona, and Minneapolis, Kansas. Quote, "We like to complement standard parts with the ability to do custom work. And with the ease of use of our e-commerce site, we look forward to taking Big H to North America," end quote. Buddy Beeman, Big H CEO and shareholder, added, quote, "We handpicked Hewitt as the buyer of Big H and the legacy of family values that we have tried to build. In an era of private equity and financial buyers, we found Hewitt to be personal, high class, and committed to building upon that legacy with their culture of excellence. They have been extraordinary to deal with," end quote. For existing Big H customers, there will be no interruption of shipments or immediate changes in the service quality. Hewitt is committed to significantly elevating its distributor engagement with its field sales force and powerful data analytics. Dan Herringer, Hewitt Vice President of Sales, commented, quote, "This will be a win for our suppliers and a win for our customers," end quote. On page 1 of the December 11, 2023 Fastener News Report newsletter, available online at fastenertech.com, you can see a picture of Timothy O'Keefe and Buddy Beeman sealing the deal with a handshake. Next up, today's Fastener Newsmaker headlines. In corporate news, Bolton established manufacturing operations in India through a new joint venture company called Bolton Radium Industries. Nefco opened a new branch in Buffalo, New York, and acquired Fasco. Bollhoff started construction on a new training and education center in Germany, and Chicago Rivet and Machine was awarded an OEM appliance part application project. In personnel news, Martin appointed Scott McDaniel as Executive Vice President. Semblix promoted Jim Schuler to Vice President of Sales Marketing, Ben Ripley to Director of Field Sales, and Liz Peterson to Director of Purchasing. And Fasco welcomed Dan Lewis, Rustuzdik, and Noah Dorsey to its USA team. Carpenter Technology named Brian Malloy CFO. Grainger hired Cecilia Myers as VP Group Product Manager. TriMas appointed William Bill Kerrigan to All Fast Fastening Systems General Manager. And STAFTA elected Andrew Hartman of Hartman Independent as STAFTA President, and Phil Seminaro of Industrial Products as STAFTA VP, and it added Robert Faca of Faca Fasteners, Matt Kitchens of California Service Tool, and Will Rue of Fastening Solutions to the STAFTA board. In milestone and association news, Semblix honored its employees who had reached the milestone of 25 or more years of service. Ford Fasteners marked its 60th year anniversary, and the Industrial Fasteners Institute, also known as the IFI, added 14 companies to its membership roster in 2023, a 10% increase since 2020. You can get details on all of these stories and more in Fastener Technology International Magazine and the Fastener News Report monthly newsletter, both available online at fastenertech.com. Next up, and before we turn to the back page to talk about a manufacturing powerhouse, we have a new feature to introduce, a quarterly industrial real estate roundup covering several fastener distribution markets across the USA. Here is Marco Rodriguez, Director of Industrial Distribution at Moore Partners, with the first Industrial Real Estate Roundup.
Hi, everyone. It's time for your dose of the Industrial Real Estate Roundup, where we break down the warehousing market with a touch of humor and a sprinkle of stats. I'm Marco Rodriguez with Moore Partners. Let's dive into the geographical roller coaster with a third quarter review of warehouse market rents and sale prices in 6 major markets for fastener distribution. First up, we've got the city where rental deals are as sweet as the peaches, Atlanta, Georgia. Rent is dancing at $8.96 per square foot, which is a 10% growth spurt over the last 12 months. And hey, with only 3.7% vacancy, seems like everyone is peachy keen on staying in their current location. Now let's jump from peaches to deep dish pizza in the Windy City, Chicago. Third quarter rent was $9.28 per square foot, which is a steady 7.6% increase over the previous year. However, sale prices are doing the limbo with a 2.2% decline. Those reduced rents should give renters a little extra money to get themselves a nice Chicago hot dog. Headed south to the Lone Star State, where everything is bigger, including the rents, Dallas-Fort Worth. Rent is $9.31 per square foot, which is a 9.1% increase over the previous year. Sale prices, on the other hand, have dipped 0.8%. But hey, those landlords had cowboy boots big enough to kick back from any downturn. Now, let's surf over to the West Coast, Inland Empire, California. Rent has been reaching for the stars at $13.99 per square foot, which is a 8.2% increase over the previous year. Sales prices have been on the rise too at a whopping $272 per square foot. That's 4.2% growth. That's a whole lot of sunshine and soaring prices. And speaking of soaring, let's fly over to the City of Angels, Los Angeles. Rent is a glamorous $19.13 per square foot, which is 5.5% growth. However, sale prices have been keeping it cool with a 0.3% dip. It seems like even the real estate market needs a little Hollywood drama. Headed to the Sunshine State, Miami, Florida. Rents are sizzling at $19.95 per square foot, which is a whopping 11.9% increase. Sale prices are also riding the wave at $252 per square foot, which is 5.3% growth. Looks like Miami's real estate market is on fire, and not just because Jeff Bezos decided to move there. Lastly, we're flying back to the Big Apple, New York, New York. Rents hit the high notes with a rate of $19.10 per square foot, growing steady at 6.7%. Sale prices, though, are doing the Broadway shuffle with a slight 0.2% dip. Seems like even the city that never sleeps needs a little nap in the real estate department. And there you have it, folks, a whirlwind tour of the real estate landscape. Whether you're into peaches, pizza, or palm trees, there's a rental deal waiting for you. Stay tuned for more industrial hilarity next time, right here on the Moore Partners Real Estate Rundown.
That was Marco Rodriguez. He's the Director of International Distribution at Moore Partners. We look forward to his next quarterly update in 2024. Now let's turn to the back page to talk about a manufacturing powerhouse. In the December 2023 issue of National Review magazine, Dominic Pino correctly identified the United States of America as a manufacturing powerhouse, and he backs it up by writing, quote, "Contrary to the narrative about a puny and shrinking U.S. manufacturing sector, manufacturing contributed about $2.25 trillion U.S. dollars in output to the economy this year. Other than the sharp decline due to the COVID pandemic, U.S. manufacturing output has been trending upward, adjusted for inflation, since the end of the Great Recession, increasing from about $1.9 trillion U.S. dollars in the year 2010. So has employment, which has increased from about 11.5 million workers in 2010 to 13 million workers today. As Colin Grabow of the Cato Institute pointed out in a recent article, if the U.S. manufacturing sector was a country, it would have the 8th largest economy in the world. The U.S. has about 4% of the world's people, but does 16% of the world's manufacturing, trailing only China and contributing more than Germany, Japan, and South Korea combined. Grabow calculated that in 2019, the U.S. was by far the leader in manufacturing output worker at $142,000 U.S. dollars. In second place was South Korea at $98,000. China's manufacturing output per worker was only $19,000. The United States is a manufacturing powerhouse, and its leaders and pundits should stop pretending that it isn't. End quote. I say amen to that and add that the American manufacturing powerhouse is poised to get stronger in the years and decades to come, regardless of how many people inside and outside of the USA believe it or want it to be true. So, for all of us making a living connected to the fastener makers and companies that manufacture products with fasteners, I say keep up the good work and keep on making, selling, and using mechanical fasteners. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International bringing you the Fastener News Report. Please send your news, pictures, comments, corrections, or complaints to me at mcnulty@fastenertech.com.
Goebel Fasteners has consistently increased its stock inventory in Houston, Texas, as well as focused on developing new, innovative battery-powered cordless tools to improve industry efficiency. Our company's strategy is to provide a level of quality and innovation that stands out among the rest. If you are interested in being part of a brand that is revolutionizing the industry, make sure to contact Goebel Fasteners today to see what we have to offer. Goebel Fasteners, the leading rivet source.
When the project calls for mission-critical bolted solutions, call J. Lanfranco.
My name is Tim Castiglia and I work for BBA Project. I have been working with Jason and the Lanfranco team for over 15 years. The Lanfranco lock nut is an excellent lock nut to use if you have an application that has high vibration or varying temperatures. One of the best things about working with Lanfranco is their dependability. Jason went over and beyond what was required to make sure my customers' needs were met.
Precision, efficiency, durability. For over 40 years. JLanfranco.com.
What can I get you, young fella? An ice-cold sarsaparilla? Something stronger like a beer from the tap? Maybe something even stronger like some blended whiskey.
Those sound like interesting choices, but I'll have an old rusty bolt.
You ain't from around here, are you, young fella?
No, sir. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland, Ohio? Every time we sold old Rusty Bolt, the fight would break out because we couldn't keep enough in stock. I don't want to have to keep fixing this place up.
But I've traveled a great distance, and I've had my taste buds set on an old Rusty Bolt.
I might have one tucked away in the bottom of the cooler. Yep, here it is.
Hey, he's got an old Rusty Bolt! Let's get him!
I warned you!
Old Rusty Bolt beer causing civil unrest since the 1800s. The preceding message was brought to you by Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company, proud Fastener show sponsors of Old Rusty Bolt beer, official beer of the traveling salesman.
Well, hi, everyone. This is Carmen Vertullo here with your Fastener Training Minute, coming to you from Carver Labs in beautiful El Cajon, California, and the Fastener Training Institute. I am feeling wonderful because I am just back from a 7-day trip to Disney World with my kids and my granddaughter and my wife. And we had a marvelous time, even though I hate Disney altogether. I hate the place. I hate the people. I hate the characters. I hate everything but their cool rides that we went on. And while I was walking around that place, as I always do, I looked at fasteners. And one thing I noticed is they use a buttload of tamper-resistant fastening of all kinds throughout that park, or every park. We went in every park, and the hotel, and the bathrooms. And I took some pictures of them, not the bathrooms. Anyway, I have dealt with tamper-resistant fastening ever since I first came into the industry in about 1989 or so. And I know a few things about it. I am not really up to speed on the state of the art of tamper-resistant fastening, but through the process of solving problems and doing some application stuff, there's a couple things I think that are worth knowing. And one thing in particular that is worth knowing in your strategy when you need a tamper-resistant fastening solution that a lot of people don't think about. And when I come back, I'm going to share that with you.
At Worth, status quo isn't an option.
Worth is a global supply chain solutions provider of fasteners, MRO, and safety products, along with value-added services like kitting and assembly, 3D printing, and engineering assistance. Find out what Worth can do for you at worthindustry.com.
Hello everyone, Ashley Parker with Parker Fasteners. Do you have a dual source for socket product lines? With everything going on in the world, don't get caught single-sourced. Bring solutions to your customers' needs. Begin investing in domestic products. You will decrease transportation, lead times, increase sustainability, and you'll be carrying quality products you can trust. Start forging your future by enhancing your supply chain. Join the movement and call Parker Fasteners today. Forged USA.
Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Carmen Vertullo with the Fastener Training Minute, coming to you again from beautiful El Cajon, California at Carver Labs and, of course, the Fastener Training Institute. Today's topic is tamper-resistant fastening. Notice I did not say tamper-proof fastening because there really is no such thing as tamper-proof fastening, because if somebody wants to get in your stuff, they're going to get in one way or another, with a drill or a hammer or a chisel or a grinder or whatever. However, we can make things more tamper resistant than if they were just held together with normal fasteners using normal tools. I'm going to describe a few tamper resistant fasteners to you. I'm not going to describe all of them, but just enough to give you the concept. The most common one that you're probably familiar with is the pin in the socket tamper resistant fastener. We have something like, normally it would be a button socket screw, and it would have a pin inside the socket, either hex or Torx. And then the driver that we would use with that would have to have a hole in the middle of it to accommodate that pin. Another common type is a snake eyes fastener. And it's, again, got sort of a smooth button type head. Sometimes it might be more like a pan head. And it's got two tiny little holes in it. And then we need a driver that engages those two tiny little holes. Another type is the tri-wing tamper-resistant fastener, and it's got a conical head or a conical nut, and there's three little grooves on it, and you need a proper socket to engage those grooves or driver to engage those grooves. Another type is the one-way, where you essentially have a slot, but it only will go one way because it slopes the other way. And you need no special tool to put that in. That just goes in with a normal screwdriver, flat screwdriver, but you need some special tool to get it out. Now, most of these are removable if you have the right tool. And sadly, nowadays, you can go on Amazon or go to any fastener distributor. Don't go to Amazon, go to the fastener distributor of your choice, and you can buy a box that has all the tamper-resistant drivers that you can imagine in it, with one exception, and that is the custom fasteners that are tamper-resistant. And there's a few brands out there, I won't mention them, where they make a special shaped socket and put a pin in it. Not a socket, it would be actually a drive, would be the way to say that, with a pin in it. And only you would theoretically have the key to that particular tamper-resistant fastener. One other type is the breakaway tamper-resistant fastener. And this essentially is a conical-shaped head, and it's conical so you can't get a wrench on it, or a conical-shaped nut. And then attached to that is a hex drive that has no threads in it if it's a nut, and it's just attached to the head of the bolt. And there's a groove there between that thing and the head or the nut. And you tighten it until it breaks off and you throw that part away. They all have a Achilles heel of one aspect or another. Most of them, you can get them loose pretty quickly with a hammer and a chisel. You know, they're not that hard to get off. Also, they sort of don't work that well when you get to very large fasteners because the drivers have low strength, lower than a normal driver. So if you need a tamper-resistant fastener that's just holding a cover on to protect your IP or to keep somebody from meddling in your stuff, they work fine. But if you need it to be a structural fastener where it's going to hold something together and you need to tighten it like it was a grade 5 or a grade 8 bolt above about a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch, those drivers at that point, they don't work that well. Now, I will tell you one thing about the pin in the head of the fastener that lessens the strength of those drivers is obviously even those drivers are very hard and strong. Now you have a hollow driver, essentially, and it's very weak, in fact. And if you design your tamper-resistant pin and head fastener, and kind of listen carefully to this, it's a little complicated, such that the depth of the hole in the driver is arranged and the pin in the head is arranged in such a way that we get some cross-sectional area of the driver in the screw that is solid. That is, we're not just trying to turn it with a tube. You have a much better chance of being able to transmit higher torque. Now, these come in all materials: alloy steel, stainless steel, zinc-plated steel of all grades. They are not cheap, though. Tamper-resistant fastening costs 2 to 3 times as much as normal fasteners. In my experience, maybe you've seen others. But I'm going to tell you the one thing that will give you the highest level of tamper-resistant fastening you can achieve if you can do it this way. And most people don't think about this. If you're going to walk up to a tamper-resistant fastener and you want to get in it and you happen to have a hammer and a chisel, you're in pretty quick. If you have a grinder, you're in pretty quick, unless it's a flathead. So if you use a flathead tamper-resistant screw in a countersunk hole, or if you can put your tamper-resistant fastener into a counter bored hole, you have a much harder time getting into that without the proper tool, because you can't knock it off with a hammer and chisel or get at it with a grinder as easily. And that's sort of my experience with tamper-resistant fastening. And all fastener distributors sell them. It's a very common product. It's a very high gross profit product. And there's lots of development work that can be done. And I didn't tell you about some other types that we can talk about some other time, and some other tricks like making your tamper-resistant fastener left-hand threaded. That'll blow a couple of people's process away if they try to get them out. But again, that won't defeat the hammer and chisel tamper-resistant fastener removal tool. Well, that's about all I can think of about tamper-resistant fastening for now. This has been your Fastener Training Minute. Thanks for listening.
This is Bryn Stack from Spencer Products, your source for threaded inserts, blind rivets, and huck bolts. You're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
We're speaking with Mr. Scott Camp. He's founder and CEO of Atlas Distribution. He's coming to us from Winona, Minnesota. Scott, thanks for being here.
Hi, Eric. Thanks for having me. Nice talking with you.
It's a pleasure. Now, we've been threatening to record a segment like this on the podcast for about a year, right? When we first discussed it, you explained to me that Atlas is one of the companies out there in the fastener world that a lot of people haven't heard much about, but you decided to bring it out into the main, if you will. So here's your chance.
Well, thank you so much. I've listened to so many of your episodes, and I've always wanted to do this. But, for a few reasons, I've kind of sat back. I don't typically jump into the spotlight too often. I've been really focused the last 9 years, building my company. We're based in Asia, the business that I founded and started. So I had to get my house in order, right? Build out the company, hire the people, develop the culture and the talent, and, pick up some great distributors along the way. So I feel like now is a really good time as we're heading into the new year to talk a little bit about Atlas, what we do and how we're very unique in the industry, but really my passion and some observations I have of our industry, particularly industrial distribution, and some ideas and suggestions I would have for folks listening in. So I really appreciate your invitation, and thanks for pursuing me.
Well, you're doing the whole industry a favor. How do you like that? So it sounds like a cliche, but one of the biggest fastener companies you've never heard of until now, perhaps, folks. That's, I think, apropos. So you describe yourself as a fastener nerd as well. You're a very methodical person. That's pretty clear. And maybe by way of that added introduction, you could tell us a little bit about Atlas Distribution, and we can get into a little bit, maybe perhaps as we discuss that, the connection with Winona, Minnesota, because a lot of people's ears perk up when they hear that city.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely am self-described as a purchasing and supply chain nerd. I'm proud of my profession. Most of my career in the last 32 years has been on the buy side of the business. I did spend 23 years at Fastenal. We'll circle back to that a little bit later. But yeah, I'm proud to say I'm the chief nut around here. And I wouldn't consider myself a fastener expert, more of a supply chain expert, having very deep roots in sourcing product all over the world and the logistics involved with bringing it from A to B. But definitely I say that with affection and a love for my craft. I absolutely love procurement and supply chain disciplines. I am a nerd in that I really enjoy demand forecasting, inventory planning, and all the things that world-class buying organizations put value in and invest a lot of time and energy and technology into making sure they do it right. So very, very curious person. I've been that way my whole career. Commodity intelligence, the pricing of raw materials, how things are made from a manufacturing standpoint, and really coming up with an understanding of what should things cost to bounce that up against, the manufacturers and the trading partners that I have, and the logistics, of course, to get it from somewhere in the world to another part in the world. So I've been very blessed. I had a great career with a great company and really left 9 years ago this past September to found Atlas. The first company that I started is in the south of Taiwan. So Atlas Distribution Services Limited is the company. And so founded that company 8.5+ years ago. Got a thriving business there, and I can explain a little bit the idea or the concept behind, but I really left the blue team on good terms. I had started right out of university in 1991, learned after working in the branches for a couple years that wasn't my passion. I enjoyed it, but I was doing a lot of purchasing at the store level. I had an opportunity to move to Atlanta from North Carolina. I spent a couple years in Atlanta working in the Southeast Regional Distribution Center, buying for the region, and really fell in love with the international purchasing side of the business. So I had met Will Oberton, then the COO of the company at the time, and kind of got to know him and learn more about the operations living in Atlanta. And I just really fell in love with operations and purchasing, and had an opportunity to move to Winona in 1995, the late 95. And my career just really took off. Started making my first trips to Asia in 1995, 96. Actually, 1996 was my first trip to Taiwan. And that led going once a year, 4 times a year, and eventually moving to China in 2003. So really got the bug with international purchasing and supply chain, and saw a need in the market for a business like mine. With the Taiwan company being first, we're a stocking exporter is how we're classified. We're not a trading company. We're a fulfillment company, and I'll explain the difference. But started the Taiwan company in 2015, and then we opened our mainland China company, separate entity, 6 years ago, coming up in January. And we have a small business in the United States where we have warehousing outside of St. Louis, Missouri. We've got a 90,000 square foot facility. We lease 50 of it, where we provide some just-in-time fulfillment to our distributor partners, but that's really not what we do. Most of what we do originates at origin, where we stock the product. We may have 35, 40 manufacturers under one roof, so we solve the product availability question from Asia. We're offshore, so we benefit from lower tax, lower labor, lower overhead. We buy very, very well. We help distributors get offshore quicker with lower minimums and less risk. So we do packaging, assembly, kitting, a lot of value-added services at origin, as opposed to some of our competitors that offer that at destination. So really building out the Atlas platform, it was Taiwan, then mainland China, and looking to head into Vietnam sometime next year. So we're an offshore company. I just happen to be the founder and the owner, who's American, and I sit in Winona.
At least today you do.
Today I do, when I'm not in Asia.
There's so much we can latch onto with the conversation there, Scott, that, as I was thinking about how we get into all of it, it's a little overwhelming. But let me ask you this as just a start, since we did run into each other this year in Vegas, and you're such an expert in all the Asian companies, and I'm sure you knew a ton of them that were there. What did you think of the return of so many Asian companies to the Vegas show this year? Do you think it indicates anything other than a rebound from, the plague that was around in 2020, 2021, or what do you read into it?
Oh, most definitely. I think it is obviously mainland China in particular has had its own set of struggles, right? And we're not going to go deep into the geopolitical tensions and things, but I think a lot of it has to do with our U.S. State Department issuing visas. A lot of the Chinese factories that I know and have ever worked with couldn't get into Vegas last year. So I think there were more visas being handed out to the mainland Chinese factories than last year. And certainly the business climate is quite depressed over there. So I think there's a renewed sense of urgency from some of these factory owners to get over to the U.S. and to be more visible and to work on trying to pick up some market share. A lot of the manufacturers in China are down 30-40% in tonnage. And, they have their sets of challenges as well. So I think it's a combination of ambition, the ability to come over because of the visas, and obviously the business climate. So a lot of suppliers from other parts of the globe as well. I think you'd agree with me. We saw a lot of Indian manufacturers, a lot of brokers and traders that were there as well. So the mix was definitely strong this year, and it was nice to see some of the folks come back that had been away.
Yeah, I saw a few familiar faces that had been absent lately too. So, okay, so you'd mentioned a few moments ago that you wanted to draw the distinction between trading companies and other kinds of business over there. And maybe that's a good moment because there were several trading companies that seemed to reappear this year, weren't there?
Yeah. And there are some really fine ones that have been around for 50 plus years that everybody knows by name. And these are folks I used to buy from as well back in the day. But look, at the end of the day, you've got to create value. And the traditional trading companies, and the reason I set out to build my business notably different from the traditional trading companies is that there's a fulfillment component, is that we're going to be an asset-based stocking exporter. A lot of trading companies have the manufacturing base, right? They've got very large, well-established factories that they partner with. They also have a mid-size market and a lot of lower-level factories who are quite good, but they may not hold an export license that prevents them from exporting from their countries, or they don't have an English proficiency or the ability to market or communicate to the West. So these trading companies for decades have provided a very important resource, both to the buyer and to the manufacturer. But they don't typically hold assets, or at least not for very long. And I actually got the idea for Atlas when I was living in China. I had opened Fasco, which they just had their 20-year anniversary. So congratulations to Fasco. I had the opportunity to move my wife, my two kids to China in 2003 to act as president for Fasco and start that entity there. And from the ground up, I mean, we went over and hired a great team of people. Many of them are still there, and celebrated their 20-year anniversary with the company in China, which is personally very fulfilling for me to see that. But, we went over and built the business, hired the people, deployed the technology, opened the labs, and really focused on taking business away from the trading companies, go to the manufacturers directly, and have a lot more influence over the costing and the availability and the quality of that product. But a lot of trading companies still do it the same way they did it in the 80s and 90s. So for me to have a value proposition at origin that would be sustainable, we had to have inventory, and we had to address the issue of the long lead times that distributors face from Asia. And again, 100%, we sell to distribution only. We do not sell to OEMs. We do not sell to any end user. It's 100% through distribution. And we don't market through a website, and you couldn't find my website because we don't have a website. We market exclusively through distributors. We are very niche and loyal and hyper-focused on the best distributors, and we don't add a lot of customers. And so our business strategy is very niche. But we wanted to help distributors that were under a lot of pressure to buy better, but to get them offshore, to buy better, lower their costs while reducing risk, because it can be quite risky if you don't know what you're doing. And that's where the trading companies had been the partners for a lot of years. But trading companies don't typically solve the lead time issue. If you have 120 days to make something, then you have the logistics to get it across the pond, through the port, on the rail, last mile logistics. We offer a turnkey, DDP is the Incoterm we sell under primarily, a turnkey landed solution for distributors. So because we stock the product, we don't have large manufacturing minimums. We stock, say, the top 5,000 or so SKUs on our shelf, under one roof in Taiwan, available for immediate fulfillment. That was the thesis of the company. How do I solve the problem that a distributor faces when they have enough lead time, but they don't have 6 months? They need it in 2 to 3 months, and they need a lower price than they can get through a traditional master distribution channel, they really didn't have too many options. And so with the consolidation of master distributors, there being fewer choices, and as a buyer, buyers like choices, we saw the consolidation of the master distribution channel starting to happen. And again, I came up with the idea for the business when I was still at my former employer. Buyers are under pressure to buy better, reduce costs, reduce risk, get offshore in many cases. And they had fewer choices to do that. So being a stocking exporter at origin, we carry about 6,000 metric tons of inventory ready to ship. We can solve the lead time, the MOQ or the minimum issue, and we can help distributors buy better and not have to deal with a very clunky, challenging supply chain because we clear U.S. customs. We handle the last mile logistics to their door. So we're really a full service export business with deep roots into this industry, and particularly in the fastener categories. We sell other things than fasteners, castings, forgings, stampings, weldments, but our emphasis is in fasteners.
Yeah, the bread and butter is right there. I saw on your LinkedIn page. I mean, it's not that exotic, what you're really doing a lot of, but it's just a tremendous volume. I can't believe it. So what does it say? 100,000 square feet currently of warehouse space?
So in the south of Taiwan, we've got just more than that. We actually have 3 buildings right now that we're in. Taiwan, if you've been there, it's a small island. It's an amazing island, beautiful culture, great people. The who's who of the manufacturers are there, and most of them are within a mile from my warehouse. So we have proximity to the main manufacturers in the south of Taiwan. We're in Gangsan or in Kaohsiung City. So we've got 3 buildings there because it's hard to find one building big enough unless you're a factory that can have that much land. It's hard to find a warehouse, the right clearance, the right height to get the racking in so you have good dense storage and get a lot of product under one roof. So we have 2 buildings basically side by side in the south of Taiwan. And then we have another building about 20 minutes away. So all in all, just over 100,000 square feet. In Shanghai, we actually lease a facility there that's a 1.5 million square foot 3PL, third-party logistics park. We actually lease that facility there. So we've got about 50,000 pallet positions in the ASRS, 14 cranes, highly automated conveyance systems, ASRS. So we store product there. We pull it out of the ASRS, package it, assemble it, kit it for our distributors, in their box, in their bag, their logo, their branding. And we can do that very quickly because we have the inventory on hand. So whereas Taiwan is mostly alloy steel, high tensile fasteners, critical fasteners, we don't sell much in stainless steel whatsoever. We do a little bit, but 95% of what we do is in alloy and carbon steels. And then mainland China would be low carbon to medium carbon steel fasteners. So it's how we have a delineation in the products. But we need to touch it, package it, assemble it, kit it, some type of transformation to create value. And we do that quite effectively offshore, as opposed to a lot of folks doing it here, or our customers doing it in their facilities, which is quite costly.
Well, you developed the vision for all of this, and in 9 years plus, you've built it out, and you're doing it with great success. It doesn't show any signs really of abating. And of course, you've got this portal coming online now too, so you'll have that component of it. I got to ask you this before we get into the purchasing side of it, because you mentioned also that it's so important for buyers to buy right, which connects to purchasing. But how did you come up with Atlas Distribution? Is in the name Atlas? That's something a name that stands out in my mind, being an Ayn Rand fan. Where did it come from?
Well, not from the book, that's for sure. It was my brother and I having a few Taiwan beers, to be honest with you, and coming up with all kinds of names. And I wanted it to be simple. I wanted it to be no more than 2 syllables. And I like the fact it started with the letter A from a SEO search standpoint. But, Atlas, when I think of Atlas, I think of the world. I think of the maps. I grew up, I'm an older guy, 55. We actually had maps. I think of the Atlas map, and I think of the world, the globe. And so Atlas Distribution Services, we're only going to service distributors. So our name somewhat indicates what we do. But honestly, like most great decisions I've made in my life, it's drinking a Taiwan beer with someone in my family deciding what to call it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. The Chinese name, the direct translation for the Chinese name anyway, is Yingshifu. So Atlas, basically eagle, World Service, the Taiwan company. And so Eagle, I'm an American, very patriotic, love my country, live in Minnesota. We have lots of American, like bald eagles here. Eagle World, servicing the world. We're not just limited to North America, although that's 98% of what we do. From our platform in Asia, we can service lots of other markets around the world. So Atlas World Service is the Chinese direct translation, Ing Shifu. So there you go.
Okay, I knew there was a story there. So you must have picked up quite a bit of Chinese over the years. Are you proficient?
I'm not 100%. They don't laugh at me anymore, at least the taxi drivers and the other folks there. I living there for 5 years, I was able to get around pretty good. But I've been surrounded by a lot of folks that are proficient because they're locals, right? In Taiwan, I've got 35, 36 employees that help me get around in English, and in Taiwan is not a challenge anymore. And in China, we've got 14 employees in mainland China that all speak English, and so that's not an issue. And I've always been in purchasing, so I always have the checkbook, right? So if the factories wanted the order, they had to speak English. But
yeah, the universal language, dollars.
Well, and I, living offshore and hiring local people to make those decisions, empowering them to make those decisions and giving them the tools and the resources to do that was always very important. And so I did that at Fastco and helped Fastenal build something that is still paying some nice dividends to their business and their customers. And I've been able to do it for Atlas and my customers by having, my definition of business intelligence is put intelligent people in the business. And we've been able to do that in our Taiwan and our mainland China entities. So small business, about 60 employees with over 50 of them, being in the market, in the factories, doing the auditing, negotiating pricing in local language and local currency, and the ability to make decisions quickly and better. The caliber of decisions is greatly enhanced when you can do that at origin. The decision-making process always takes too long when you have to do that from here. So all of our decisions are made regarding purchasing, pricing, sales, what we sell the product for. I handle that with my sales team, which is based in the U.S. But who to buy from, how much to spend, how much to buy, my team makes those decisions.
All right. I know you want to jump into purchasing. I want to ask you one more question about Chinese language proficiency. Mm-hmm. The fastener industry, for its huge dependence on Asian product, in my experience, there just aren't that many people who do have language proficiency. What percentage of people do you think have it? I mean, it's very low. Is it just because they've learned English, or is it still a skill that would be worth developing?
Absolutely, it is. I mean, as a father of 3 kids, my children range from 24, 21, all the way down to 17, my daughter. And when they grew up in China, my daughter is actually from China. We adopted her when she was a baby, when she was 8 months old, and now she's 17. But they were able to learn Mandarin, Chinese, living there for 5 years. So they may have forgotten a lot of that over the years, but the neural pathways are there, and they can understand a lot more than they can speak. And that's true with me. I mean, I'm there 4 or 5 times a year. I'm not living there like I used to, so I do get a little rusty, but I can understand enough of the vocabulary and the meaning to be effective. But these are tough languages to learn, especially the Mandarin and Chinese is like 5 tones. If you get the tones wrong, you're really messed up. My daughter's middle name, Xiaoji, I was calling her Xiaoji. It's like little chicken. So it's supposed to be little luck. Xiao is small, right? Little. In Ji, where you say G, 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 G. I mean, it depends on how you pronounce it. It can mean, so I was calling her little chicken for most of her life until someone looked at me and said, you're pronouncing your daughter's name wrong. But it's a hard language. It's very, very difficult. So the longer you wait, the harder it is. So I recommend anybody with children, being multilingual in the world that we live in today, in the world that's becoming and has become very global. It's important to have an appreciation and understanding for other languages. And Chinese is a very important language to know.
Yeah, well, I think there's similar issues with the calligraphy. You get one stroke just a little off at the wrong angle, and it means something entirely different. Thus we have a few unfortunate people walking around with tattoos that actually cryptically say "fat cow" on them.
Exactly. Speaking of fat cow, no,
Yeah.
that's a joke for another time. But I never endeavored to try to understand how to read and write. I think the only characters I could recommend are in my company name, my company logo, in the word Shanghai where I lived for 5 years. That's a whole nother level to be able to read and write.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to just use the age excuse and stick with English for now, and hope that AI really comes a long way, because, it's reputed to have some wonderful translation capability.
Yeah. Well, we all need more education in that respect, for sure.
Okay, let's turn the page now. So let's do it this way. What makes a great purchasing organization, Scott? You've seen them all. You've thought a lot about it. Fire away.
Well, again, I look at the lens, of my craft in this discipline as a practitioner. I look at it through my lens and my journey and what I've learned, and I think it's super important when I meet the younger generation of buyers, because I get to work with a lot of young purchasing professionals, and I see them missing a few areas, right? And for me, I was blessed to always have great leadership. Bob Carolyn, the founder of Fastenal, a lot of the leaders in the company that I worked around really had a strong understanding of cost. What should it cost to transport a pallet from here to here? Or what should this fastener cost based on the grade of material, the manufacturing process, and the logistics to move it? What should the landed cost be? And I see a lot of folks looking at spreadsheets, looking at data points, and not understanding the full scope of it. So I see a lot of younger folks needing more information and more experience or exposure. I was blessed. I was fortunate. I got to go over and see how things are made and understand how the raw materials produce steel, and understand how the wire is drawn and how parts are headed and threaded and annealing and heat treatment and plating and surface. I mean, I got to understand, because I'm a curious person and I had access to it. So the first I would say is, if you're in this profession and you have responsibility to procure products offshore, get over there and do it regularly. I talk to buyers that have never once set foot in any of the markets that they're buying product from. And they meet people at trade shows, they walk around the show, they have dinner or whatever, but they don't go over and invest the time to walk the plants. I have walked these plants since 1996, so 27 years, and I still go to Taiwan and China, and I walk through the plants, and you see a lot of the same thing, but you always see something new if you're open to it. So perspective, get out of the spreadsheet and be more curious. Why does it cost 10 cents? How is that part made? What is the raw material? So commodity intelligence, right? What is the raw material, and what are the cost drivers for that product? And again, like I said, in my background, I was fortunate to be surrounded by folks that understood cost very well, very frugal, very conservative, very much let's do it ourselves and find a way to do it. So the culture was very much conducive to, what should this cost? What should this 1/2 by 2.5 grade 5 hex cap screw cost? What should it cost based on the material inputs, overhead, transportation? Because otherwise, if you don't know, how do you know without sending it out to 20 factories and getting 20 data points, and you just look at that? If you don't have the backdrop of understanding the manufacturer, strengths, weaknesses, and the cost drivers, how do you know you're getting the best deal? How do you know that the deal you got today is going to be valid 3 months from now or 6 months from now? So indexing, understanding raw material, understanding currency, understanding total cost of ownership as a buyer. And that's an area that I see people kind of falling down on, is they'll focus on getting the best per piece price, and then they don't know how to land it properly with duty, freight, tariff, etc. And if they do know that, but they're still packaging it, Eric, in their back room or in their back warehouse, they don't really understand the cost of that packaging and the cost of capital. I think finance is something that's missing through a lot of our life, especially with younger people. And so I would recommend to leadership to get more involved in mentoring these purchasing professionals in the areas of finance. What is the cost of capital? What does it mean if you reduce your turns and the company earns, the profitability goes up of the business? And so I see a lot of decisions being made in a vacuum without a broader understanding of the commodity side of it, and what I call product logistics, which is the packaging, kitting, assembly of the product, or secondary. sending product out for secondary coatings,
Right.
the truck expense to send it out, to get it back, to pay the charges, to bring it back, to manage the lot integrity and the certs. And I don't see a lot of purchasing folks putting a value. So world-class buying organizations understand costs of everything, and they benchmark it, they track it, they refer to it, and they set goals to reduce it. And so I think the education, the ongoing education in this area of the business is a huge opportunity for distributors.
When we were warming up for the conversation the other day, we were talking about a lot of these things that we would be addressing during the conversation, and I threw the question of AI in the purchasing role out there for you, and you kind of shot it down. And I was thinking, geez, we're going to have to come back to that. AI is huge in the business world right now. It's a buzz. And as a matter of fact, we even started the podcast out today with a conversation on that subject, having to do mainly with quote requests and things like that. But in terms of purchasing, what you just outlined there as a core group of important considerations for world-class purchasing. One of the things that I said, maybe this is why Scott thinks this way, is because how is an AI ever going to be able to get in all these factories and understand all those subtle nuances that need to go into making these kinds of decisions? I mean, how would it even happen?
Yeah. Well, and again, the reason for dismissing it was really because, number one, I'm not a subject matter expert in it. I still think very fundamentally about things. At the end of the day, people buy from people. Whether I'm buying from a factory in Ningbo or in Taoyuan, Taiwan, I'm still buying from people. And yes, I need to assess their capability, their quality management system, their machinery, their capability, their capacity, and yes, and there has to be trust. And to me, I see so much low-hanging fruit on the most basic fundamental of disciplines. So there's no question AI, it will make a dent. But if you don't have smart people that are savvy, that know how to set it up, optimize it, implement it, and deploy it throughout the purchasing organization and supply chain and logistics and transportation management, what's the point? It's not going to do it itself. So you got to get the folks to a level where they can, seek first to understand before implementing something like that. I think simplistically, not that I'm a simple person, but I think about the building blocks and what are the opportunities. Again, you need to have smart people that have the tools and the backdrop and the perspective that would understand how to implement that level of technology.
Right. And I think that part of it's a given. And but the AIs that I know of, at least with my level of understanding, I have no trouble thinking you could plug in lots of variables and they do a good job of looking at TCO, for example. But again, those personal relationships, as you're saying, and the understanding of what's going on, like at the granular level in some of these out of the way factories and things like that. I don't know. I can totally see the role for human purchasing agents for many years to come, put it that way.
Well, relationships are everything. And again, I'm looking through the lens of Asia Pacific, right? And the customs, the culture, the traditions of how business is done. And even if you've got the greatest tool set and technology at your fingertips, if you're not getting over there, forging relationships with the manufacturers, you're just going to be a more savvy buyer, but you're not going to have the guanxi. You're not going to have the access and the relationships to fully implement it or to get the best return on that investment of technology. So they go hand in hand, but you can't have one effectively without the other.
How do you approach incentivizing purchasing people? What's your take on that?
Yeah, my take on it, and I think a lot of folks have it wrong, and it only comes just, again, these 9 years of being outside of the blue team. When you spend 23 and a half years at a company, you kind of see the world through that lens, right? And when you step outside of that, you look through a different goggle, you have different perspective. And so being a buyer myself, meeting with other buyers, understanding how they're compensated, it always comes up because I think the vast majority of buyers out there truly want to do the right thing for their employers. They want to save their company's money and they want to get the best return on their assets if they can. But at the end of the day, people gravitate to and they do what they're paid to do. And if the KPIs are too narrow and they don't include profitability, which a lot of the compensation programs that I have seen in our industry, in distribution, they may have levers or KPIs in there for cost down, and we can talk about how they measure that and how effective that is, but they don't really align the incentives with the goals of the organization in terms of profitability. They don't typically get too granular in the area of profitability as it relates to an investment, a gross margin, return on inventory, and what's the upside to the business financially, and then what's the effect on the turns. So I've had a lot of buyers tell me, yes, I could capitalize on the Atlas model, for example. I have to buy a little sooner, have to buy a little deeper for safety stock. My turns are going to go down, and I will make less money as a buyer. I've had people tell me this before, and I'm like, yeah, but your overall organization is going to say your earns are going to go up, right? Because you don't have to kit it or package it. And we are financing some of that inventory at origin, and you don't have to build that much inventory at destination. And it's like, Scott, my turns will go down, my earnings will go down, even though the earns of the company go up, because your overall saving is quite a bit of money, because you're removing touches and removing wasteful activities or very expensive activities. You're doing that offshore versus doing it in Chicago, for example. And that's a very, very common theme. And I asked the question, well, why aren't you paid on profitability? And like, well, a lot of these folks work for privately held businesses, and they don't really even know the true profitability of their business. And that's something that as a business owner, I can understand and appreciate how delicate that would be. I grew up in a publicly traded company where financials were public domain and everybody understood it. What were the gross margins? What's the SG&A? What's operating income and what's net profit? And a lot of buyers don't know that of their own companies, but I would suggest, ownership and leadership can give enough of that information so they have directional understanding of the business, and they can plot goals and have some part of their compensation tied to profitability. So even if the turns go down and the earnings of the business would go up, they should benefit from that. So there's a lot of misalignment of compensation programs around the procurement department. Sourcing and procurement are sometimes different departments, and they have different KPIs, and sometimes they work not in harmony with one another. They work in competition with one another. So I think compensation is always a big deal. If you want people, to work hard, measure them on the right things, show them a path, include them in the decision making, and make sure they understand, for the love of everything holy, the impact of the decisions they are making, especially when it's halfway around the world.
Okay, I think we could stick on this for quite a while and drill into it. Maybe we will when we come back on your next visit, Scott. But, I want to ask you this because you mentioned profitability, and you also mentioned the fact that you're rolling out a new customer portal. Do you expect to improve profitability through that, or is this simply a way to keep up with modern times and you're just going to sort of call it even once you have it operational and companies are just expecting this kind of service from a company like yours?
Yeah, no, my motivation for doing it, and again, it's an e-commerce distributor portal, for lack of a better term. So it's another way for our customers, not Joe Public. It's a way for our customers to be more efficient. I think for me, it's not a margin opportunity. It is a top line sales opportunity, because a lot of folks we've been selling to for 7-8 years still do not fully grasp the scope of what we can do for them at the product level or at the service level. So I think for me, it's giving our distributor clients a more efficient way to transact, number one, because their time is valuable. Sending RFQs through our platform, placing orders on our platform. And what's compelling about it is that because we're principally an offshore business, right, our inventories are offshore. We carry very little inventory in the United States. So what we do is in Sullivan, Missouri, and I mentioned we're about an hour southwest of St. Louis. Our distribution strategy for that facility is really wed to our customer need. It's not if you build it, they will come. We open a warehouse, fill it with product, and we sell to the general public. We're not a just-in-time supplier. The industry has two very, very large, very capable businesses here to fulfill the needs, the transactional needs of those distributors. But for me, the e-commerce platform is a way for a distributor to get online, see what we have, where we have it, and buy it in a way that they want to buy it, whether that's FOB, port of export, CIF, basically cargo, insurance, freight, DDP, which is basically the door-to-door service I mentioned, delivery, duty paid. So to have product in mainland China, have product in Taiwan, even have product sitting in Missouri, they can see all of that in one place. They can search by category. They can drill down by attribute and see what we have, where we have it, and what the price is. that makes them more efficient, right? As far as their transactional quoting, procurement, day-to-day needs. So it's just a way for us to offer more value to our customers. I don't think it's going to get us new customers, because a lot of the customers that would benefit from that would probably never be a good customer to Atlas. They just don't have the skill, will, or scale to effectively buy offshore. So that's where I don't, again, our business model is very different, being a stocking exporter rather than an importer. We don't look to compete with the just-in-time folks that are out there. They've got their own business and they do it really, really well. We're an alternative to a distributor that has the volume to be offshore, who doesn't really know how to do it, doesn't have the 3,000 plus factory relationships, and doesn't have an army of people in Asia that's going to ensure the quality and the availability of that product. So we're a bolt-on, if you will, to a certain class of distributor at a certain size. And this e-commerce platform is just a way for them to be more efficient. We don't go to market through a website. That's why you couldn't find me online. Membership has its privileges, and we're not out there trying to be all things to all people, and nor will we never do that. That's not our mission. So for me, it's just another resource and another way to better serve my current customers. Does that make sense?
I get it. It's sunken in finally. Took me a while, Scott.
If I was Taiwanese, it'd make a lot more sense. But people see us walk into a meeting room and we're talking about our business in Taiwan, and they think we're a Minnesota or Missouri-based importer, and we're really an exporter from China or Taiwan. So it's kind of interesting.
We've been speaking with Scott Camp. He's founder and CEO of Atlas Distribution Services. And you may be a Taiwan-based company, although, as we mentioned at the top of this conversation, you're coming to us currently from Winona, Minnesota, where you reside now. And we mentioned also the connection with Eagles. A couple of times up there when I was waiting around to get into a meeting with, Polipnik or somebody over there at Fastenal, and wound up going down to kill some time down by the dam, in the wintertime. And I have never even thought how many eagles could be there. I mean, there had to be 300-400 eagles all amassed around that dam.
Yep. Looking out my window, I'm staring at the Mississippi. I mean, I am right downtown Winona. I'm actually right across the street from the very first location that Bob opened in 1967. So I have a beautiful view of the Mississippi. I see eagles every day. I've been fortunate enough to get some really good pictures and videos, which sometimes I post on LinkedIn. But yeah, my wife and I love them to death. We're just blessed to live in a beautiful part of the country. When we came back from China at the end of 2007, I promised her we wouldn't move again. Because I grew up moving around a lot, but I settled in Minnesota. She's from here. In fact, I met my wife at Fastenal. She was a buyer. She was dealing with Infasco in Canada.
Of course.
Maryville, Quebec. She was doing all the full truckload orders. She and Tim Teskey and Dale Zeinert. But she also would deal with Joel Hammer and now it's Infast Group or whatever. But it's all changed. But yeah, she was a buyer within the organization. And I always say the greatest gifts in my life were gifted by God, but in my experience, really facilitated through my time at Fastenal. Meeting my wife, moving to China, adopting my daughter while living in China, and then really figuring out exactly what I'm supposed to do. And like I said, I fell in love with international sourcing and procurement early in my career, going to Asia in the mid-90s, living there for 5 years in China. I fell in love with international trade. And so I left Fastenal on good terms to build this company. I didn't run away from anything. I ran towards something. And that to me is important. So Winona is our home. My wife, all three of our kids still live in the area. My wife's in the business with me. Both my sons are in the business. Malcolm will be graduating from Liberty University this May. It's all online, but he's home with us. He worked part-time in my inside sales operations department, learning the business. And so I've got Malcolm. My daughter will not be in the industry. She's going to do something completely different. But yeah, we have a lot of family. My father-in-law, he joined me after I got the business running. He had been at Fastenal nearly 30 years. He joined me after I got the company around first base. My brother-in-law, Ben Albrecht. So Tim Albrecht is my VP of operations. His son, Ben, my brother-in-law, runs our Missouri facility for the last 6 years. So we're very much a family-run business that's in China and in Taiwan, soon to be Vietnam.
It's in your blood, Scott. It's clear. Well, I knew that going into this conversation, and I learned a lot, and there's so much more, so I hope you'll come back again.
Well, I'll have you back based on the feedback of your listeners. We'll see if they want me back. But
well, that's going to lead me to my next very short question, and that is, since you really have no presence online, how do people get a hold of you, Scott Camp?
Well, we are members of a few of the associations. I'm a member of CFA, for the Southeast Fastener Association. Some of our information is listed on their website. Of course, I'm a member of NFDA as well, and that's how we kind of got to know each other a little bit. You can learn a little bit of information and contact me from there. And then also in the Midwest Fastener Association. So myself and some of my team members are involved in those associations. People can always reach out to me directly. So we can definitely put a link to my LinkedIn page. It's probably the best way. My email and phone is on there. But even when our e-commerce portal comes out, it won't be open to the public. But they will at least be able to find us online and contact us that way.
Well, people, you'd be surprised. Some people may want to reach out just to maybe develop some kind of a purchasing mentorship program. There's a lot of cross-pollination going on in the industry with the intent of ramping up the young talent. And you're certainly a person who could contribute to that.
Well, I believe I have a servant's heart. I've always lived my life that way, and I love this industry. It is an integral part of who I am as a person within the industrial distribution space. So I love to help. I love to serve others. And if I can certainly add value and we find the time and the right fit, I'd be more than happy to help folks out.
All right. I love it. And you're a master of understatement, should I say, Scott. Scott Camp, Atlas Distribution Services. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
At Star Stainless, the sum of all we do is what we consider star quality. It's not just the quality of the products or the service we offer, but the overall approach to the way we do business. Star Stainless Screw Company is a division of Linfast Solutions Group.
Are you tired of empty promises from software vendors? Are you paying for support that you're not receiving? Is it time for another paid upgrade? There is a solution. InSequel delivers quality software designed for the fastener industry at an affordable price with industry-leading support. Quality software, affordable pricing, industry-leading support. Only InSequel can deliver all three. www.inxsql.com.
Want to know when your BBI order is ready? Subscribe to Mobile Text Message to receive a notification when your order is available. We make it quick and easy to skip the wait. Speak to a Bright & Best representative to get notified by text or email today. Tested, tried, and true. We are Bright & Best International. To learn more about Bright & Best, visit us at www.brightandbest.com.
Hi, this is Vic from the Cambridge Corporation at the 31st Annual Midwest Fastener Show, and I listen to Fully Threaded Radio.
Well, Bri, from what I know about Guanxi, Scott Camp is a guy who has it. What do you think?
Yes, but he's right about the very fine differences in meaning just based on a change in the sound of a part of a word. We don't have that problem in English.
Oh, so you're saying I pronounced it wrong?
No.
I probably said something like you're wearing old socks or something.
Could even be worse.
Guanxi. I don't know. That's the best I can do. So his network over there in Taiwan and, the whole region is very strong. And it was great to talk to him. I learned a few things, and hopefully we'll hear from him again on the podcast. Scott Camp, Atlas Distribution Services. Cole Weiler also joined us today. He's from BoltWise. He's another guy who will have more to say, I believe, on the podcast. Originally, we were going to talk about their platform, but I think some retooling is going on right now. And, this is one of these things where if you're in tech these days, you're in continuous retooling mode. when do you call it a version, and just go with it? Well, anyway, it was good to speak with him.
Right. And yeah, they're developing an interesting product, and they've thought about it very, very carefully. So when the time they're ready to release it, it's going to be interesting. And we'll be talking to him then, I think.
Mike McNulty and Kevin Godin had the good news on the FDI. Hope that trend rolls along into the new year. Also, Marco Rodriguez appeared on the Fastener News Report today. Thanks for the update, Marco.
Right.
And Christian Reich with Goebel Fasteners. He's one of the new Certified Fastener Specialists in the industry. Also saw online that Jake Valdez-Davis is a CFS as well.
Yeah.
And TJ McFarland, also from Goebel. There was a whole class that went through, but those guys I know for sure passed their tests. Once again, all with the help of Worth as a sustaining partner of the Fastener Training Institute.
I suppose when you're wandering around the hillsides of Colombia on your little burro or donkey, picking bits of coffee off here and there, you must be thinking about fasteners. You have to put your mind onto something.
Yes, in Jake's case, that's true, Brian.
Right.
Also, thanks to Carmen Vertullo on the Fastener Training Minute today. That's going to round out the final episode of the 2023 podcast season. And we've had a bunch of really strong episodes in a row, and we have no plan to abate that. So look forward to talking to you all again in the coming year.
Right.
The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, tested, tried, true, Brighton Best, Goebel Fasteners, quality the first time, Go Goebel, and Star Stainless Screw. Right off the shelf, it's Star. Fully Threaded Radio is also sponsored by Buckeye Fasteners, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, Fastener Technology International, InSequel Software, J. Lanfranco, Parker Fasteners, Solution Industries, 3Q Inc., Volt Industrial Plastics, and Worth Industry North America.
If you're thinking of nuts and bolts and screws and washers, think of our sponsors, okay?
Let us know what you think of the podcast, folks. We're always interested. Suggestions, comments, questions. The email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com. And I figure, Bri, since we've come this far and stepped on the third rail numerous times, the third rail being AI as a conversation topic, as described earlier, we're going to close out with something that caught my eye right as we were sitting down to record all this for the final episode of the 2023 season. And I think it's fitting because it's an announcement of a new platform coming to the world called Channel One. Now, this is they call themselves a new personalized global news network, and it's all powered by generative AI. And again, it's launching next year. This is, I don't know, Bri. It's amazing, but it's a little creepy. It's a little exciting. You can see it for yourselves, folks. The web address is channel1.ai, and that's the number one. So channel1.ai.
Right.
There's a sample of this on a video. So what's your cold read on that one, Bri?
Well, it's very interesting to watch it, and the demonstrations of the presenters, I guess you'd call them the news commentators, the ones who are telling the stories. They are simply generated pictures of people that can talk to you in any language they want to. And
they're holograms.
If I found this news, I'd probably be watching it. I mean, I am a little picky about my news. It's a little hard to know with this example because the content itself is largely generated as well. I mean, they pick up some story and go with it, but they have a great example of a storm in France where the guy's talking about in French. The roof of his house got blown off and there's an all sort of thing. And they say, oh, now I'll switch it around to English. Same guy, same house. Now the guy's just talking away in English.
Right. And they demonstrate how they shift languages seamlessly, so I'm sure that the Cantonese is flawless and Scott would be very happy. But
he would.
I ask myself, is this actually what we've been watching and they're just coming out?
Yeah.
That's my first reaction.
Oh, no, it was mine too. Maybe this is what we've been watching in my BBC News all along, okay?
Well, at least for the last little while, yeah.
So hopefully somewhere there's a person who's either moderating or just checking to make sure that whatever these AI bots are aren't running off with stories found in a complete load of shit, okay? Somewhere there it did happen that we can verify.
So going back to Cole Weiler's comment about the very, very important distinction between generative AI and artificial generalized AI, which one is this? They say generative, but see, this is where it gets really spooky.
Yes, this probably would be defined as the true AI, as opposed to a set of programs running in the background that are very, very smart. Who knows? Maybe I've been fooled.
Yeah, well, that doesn't clarify it for me at all, but that's no big deal. I think it is the generative variety, and there's a great and powerful Oz behind the curtain who's actually some kid with a propeller, on his hat. But
possible.
Hopefully for the moment they're on our side. That's all I'm hoping, because
Right.
This is so real looking that it's spooky. I mean, you can tell, but you could also tell that what we've been exposed to, and this is in the news, in movies, probably in sports, just across the board, this stuff has been everywhere, and now they're coming out with it and actually saying this is what it is. So take a look at channel1.ai on the web and draw your own conclusions, folks. But hopefully that third rail is not going to kill us in this case.
No, that's true. And then when you go to Bing, or if you've signed up to use full, ChatGPT-4, or you go to Google. I mean, you've got a Google page that turns up with news. You could think, I wonder where this news really did come from. Is it come from a source exactly like this Channel 1? Okay. Could easily have.
Well, my money's down that we're going to survive the release of this thing, and we'll be back for episode 196 of Fully Threaded Radio after the new year.
Right. And if it's AI driven, it'll be predominantly anything that the AI bot wants it to be at any one time.
No, that wasn't what I was going to say at all, Brian, because for the time being, Fully Threaded Radio will remain completely organically created and produced. And proving that, we'll have Bob GQ Bear with us on the next episode. He'll be sitting down with Mike McNulty to do a completely organically generated review of the 2023 FDI numbers, because we'll finally have the full picture of what happened in the year. And it was a bit of a roller coaster. Fortunately, it wound up on a high note.
And you can bet that roller coaster, every single bolt holding it up, Carmen Vertullo was having a look at just to check it was right.
That's right. They're all tamper-proof from his seat. And hopefully we ended this one on a high note for you folks, and you have a great Christmas season. Thanks for being with us this year.
Yeah, well, thanks for being with us over the whole year, actually. And have a great Christmas. Drive and drink safely, and we'll see you next year.
For Brian Musker, this is Eric Dudas. Get out there. Watch out for those third rails if you can. Sell some screws, and we'll talk to you next time.
Till next year, folks.
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fastener's Clearinghouse. Music provided by Audionautics.
From our point of view, and the Haight-Ashbury point of view, sort of, the war and anti-war thing was all war. If you were talking pro-war or against the war, you were talking war. Your energy was going into the war. You were creating more war noise. For us, the alternative was, hey, fuck the war. We don't need it. The world doesn't need it. Nobody likes it. It never was much fun. And maybe something else is what's called for. That's the broad philosophical difference. How you act that out in your life became the underlying discussion.